2018 to 2020, NDS1 2021 to 2025. Now NDS2 is starting. Let's go back to TSP, Dr. Malero. How important was it in laying a foundation, and was it successful?
All right. This economy, if you look at the history of this economy, you can trace it back to 2009. We had 5-year, as usual, we had 5-year blueprints. But when we had a transitional stabilization plan, it was what it says. It could not cover the full period.
All right.
These were then interventions that were then necessary to ensure that the macroeconomic fundamentals, which had gone out of control, which were not operating on the desired platform, were then stabilized. Hence, in terms of semantics, the term that was given to it, it had a short-term vision. It was a way of preparing for a blueprint, which was going to be now NDS1. And during that period, we had serious currency challenges. We had serious foreign currency inflow challenges. We had serious infrastructural challenges pertaining to electricity, water, roads, and road network. And also at that time, in terms also of our international policies, when the Second Republic then came into place, things became clearer now. That now they were saying now we are open for business. So it's important for us to understand the journey that we've traversed. It was a journey characterized by turmoil. Things were not very stable. The macroeconomic fundamentals were not right. And government then made the necessary interventions to stabilize those economic fundamentals.
Mr. Ogoro, do you share the same sentiments with what he's saying, to say TSP was only meant to transition and also bring stability? Was stability realized?
Yeah, that is correct. The TSP period was a period of austerity, as the doc said, to transit the economy into a base, to establish a solid base from which growth could be attained. If we look at the actuals, the period building up to 2018, we had problems of high inflation. We actually had hyperinflation. We had a very big budget deficit, 10%. We had a very big trade deficit, about 1.2 billion. In fact, if you recall, the Professor Mtuli, when he came, he said that Zimbabwe had twin devils, a problem of twin devils. The twin devils were the budget deficit at 10% and the trade deficit of 1.2 billion. These were very unsustainable. Built on top of that, the economy, because of dollarization, informalization was like galloping, as deindustrialization was the outturn of dollarization. So these were problems that needed to be stopped, and the way that what was done was to go into this 2-year transitioning period. Fortunately, as the term said, it was an austerity measure.
Austerity for posterity.
Yes. So you'll find that the economy actually contracted first year in 2018 by about 6.3%. The next following year in 2019 contracted about 7.8%. Then we launched into NDS1 and began to achieve positive growth. There were also other intervening factors that caused the decline apart from the contraction. So what then happened was, at the end of the TSP period, we now needed to go into growth. If you recall, the President, His Excellency, Comrade Mnangagwa, saying we want jobs.
Right.
Coming from obviously a growth of the economy. So that was the main thrust of shifting now from TSP into NDS1, and now we're going into NDS2. We need to look at what we then achieved in NDS1 and what is outstanding to be continued into NDS2, and what more should be added into NDS2 in order to grow this economy to an upper middle income society by 2030.
So you clearly explained how TSP worked, and of course how NDS1 worked, and NDS2 is going to be launched today, as we are anticipating His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, to officially launch a National Development Strategy number 2. We do have our team on the ground. Now, let's cross over to them and hear what's happening in State House.
We are coming to you live from State House, where His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, will launch the National Development Strategy 2. It is that midterm plan which is coming to succeed the NDS1, which comes to its end this December. And of course, with the aspirations of achieving an upper middle income economy by 2030, the Second Republic launched a Vision 2030, and with that inclusive and transformative agenda to reach that upper middle income economy, there was that development of the Transitional Stabilization Program, the TSP, which ran its course 2018 to 2020. Absolutely. But of course, with this, we will be looking to these economic blueprints and unpack how the rollout of these economic blueprints have impacted on economic growth, how these have also transformed the agenda of development for Zimbabwe. My name is Monica Chanda.
And my name is Kurtley Gwindi. We're very much excited to be bringing you this broadcast from number 1 Chancellor Avenue here in Harare, Zimbabwe, at the Zimbabwe State House. And of course, we are going to be taking a look at some of the matters that have been raised within the course of NDS1. Obviously, cascading and pervading into NDS2, and that national development strategy encompasses many matters, Mo, which take a look at some of issues to do with governance, issues to do with the stability of the economy, also taking a look at some of the key infrastructural development projects that have been taking place here in Zimbabwe. With all that into perspective, we also are going to be taking a look at some of the key players, key stakeholders, and key decision makers and legislators who have also been a part of this transitional process. Obviously, putting into perspective once again, Mo, it's also very important to note that it is a bright and shiny day here at the State House. Also speaking to the bright and shiny future that we're going to be expecting from the National Development Strategy too.
Well, absolutely. But we need to also unpack to our viewers at home who are following up with these proceedings. You will find that curtly with the TSP. It was about that process of ensuring that some of those macroeconomic reforms were implemented. But while there were some of those challenges with the policy, there were achievements and running through that austerity for prosperity. And after coming to its end in 2020, ushering in that midterm plan, which was the first phase of it, the NDS1, and with the NDS1 having 14 priority areas, some of those being economic growth and stability, devolution. You talk about human capital development, as well as youth, sports, culture, among some of those 14 key priority areas. But with the launch of NDS2, we will be seeing 10 pillars that will be running under this very critical midterm plan, which will come to effect. And I do see later on we will be having the budget presentation. It looks like the NDS2 will be ushering in the implementation of that through the budget. But at this point in time, we are live on ZBC TV and across our social media platforms. And I am now joined by Professor Paul Mapfumo, who is going to walk us through in terms of these economic blueprints and especially these particular midterm plans, which were supposed, or should I say, which have actually brought about a lot of achievements to the economic growth and the transformative trajectory for Zimbabwe. We start by understanding the NDS1 running its course 2021 to 2025. Professor Mapfumo, do talk to us about the NDS1 itself and why it is very critical, talking to us about some of those targets and achievements under the NDS1.
Thank you very much. The NDS1 was an embodiment of the strategies and the pathways towards our Vision 2030 of becoming an upper middle income economy, of an empowered and prosperous nation. And the strength of the NDS1 was actually the architecture, developing the template for taking us on course to achieving the vision, and grounding every economic sector, 14 of the priority areas defined, right from the digitalization of the economy to the innovation and industrialization thrust in terms of human capital development, and then the food security area, health and welfare, resilience of the economy, the engagement and re-engagement in terms of how we bring about relations with other nations and other partners across the globe. It also embraced the national, the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. It also embraced the Agenda 63 of our African Union, the Africa we want, and we will also be able to address the strategies for the industrialization that we focused on in terms of our SADC region. So these were built in the NDS1. Some of the strength of the NDS1 was also understanding that we are driven by results. So the integrated results-based management system that was now used, we saw performance measured and performance rewarded and recognized at the highest level. And this drove the new thrust and consolidated the template. So in terms of the NDS1, we saw infrastructure developing. Just the process, the systems of setting up to say we can deliver our own infrastructure is phenomenal. It's a major achievement. The idea of inclusive growth, leaving no one and no place behind, the devolution and decentralization. For the first time, we saw that in the districts, in the local governing areas, provinces, people were planning, prioritizing, implementing projects and programs. We also saw the rising confidence of investors, external and local, to say we can invest in building our country. That being grounded and those mantras beginning to make sense, the mantras beginning to create the required awareness, sung by even primary school children all the way to university level, gathering confidence in the nation that we can have inclusive growth, we can have stability of our economy, and we can do it ourselves. And the research, innovation, and industrialization thrust of the country was well crafted during the NDS1. So there were many achievements, some of which can be felt at a grassroots level, and some which you can pick at a macroeconomic level. And all this array of achievements speak a lot about how the new dispensation galvanized this new architecture for development.
Okay. You also spoke clearly in terms of economic growth and that stability. And if we are to take a look at under the achievements of the NDS1, especially in 2025 as we draw to a close, there was that projection of 6% growth. But there were those geopolitical shifts coupled with the El Nino drought-induced drought, which then affected the economic growth. But there was then that rebound, and hence we then saw that projection for a 6.6% growth in Zimbabwe's GDP. But with that said, Professor Mapfumo, if we are to look at where we started from with the TSP, where there was that austerity for prosperity, and coming into the NDS1, would you say some of that austerity measures also played a big role in terms of that economic reform that also pushed through with the economic growth and stability that is being achieved or felt at this point?
I can certainly say with confidence that the TSP did turn the corner. It changed a lot of things. That was austerity for prosperity, yes it was. But I think Zimbabweans were beginning to learn across the board, from policymakers to those in industry, in the private sector, those in the public sector, that things could be done differently. And in Shona we can say taifanwa kusunga matumbu kuti tikwanise kuita launch ourselves into motion, into the trajectory for development. So that stage where we were focusing on macroeconomic stability was very essential in grounding this new architecture, grounding this new template. And it was fundamental for the nation to be now able to pick up the NDS1. All the discussions of the NDS1 were contextual. The consultations were far and wide. The diverse people contributed to that. But that inclusiveness, just in terms of consultation, was also a baby of the TSP. People beginning to understand that we have to find a way to launch ourselves to prosperity.
Well, we are gathered here for the launch of NDS2, 10 pillars under the NDS2 that we will be running with as a nation, especially when we are driving towards that upper middle income economy. And taking context from the 14 pillars, we are seeing some of those key pillars from NDS1 are coming into part of those 10 pillars for NDS2. Let's talk to what are those expectations in terms of the NDS2. What are the objectives to this NDS2?
I would say first thing that's more important is the consolidation of the gains of the NDS1. It requires a very strong thread of consolidating those gains. The trajectory was set. But I think what underpins that is then the macroeconomic stability, indicators of the macroeconomic stability. You can say the currency being stable, people beginning now to decide whether to use a ZiG or to use the US dollar. That is a defining moment for Zimbabwe to say if we persist and consolidate that, we'll begin to see a lot more things evolving. Things turning out towards the vision. So we think that the NDS2 would provide the much needed consolidated package that will take us to the upper middle income economic status that we so desire. And the empowerment projects that happened that were inclusive, that happened during NDS1, I think we now know better how to do, how to deliver. And people have taken ownership, are taking leadership of their own economic activities. People have a new language. Zimbabweans didn't know how to really produce things, produce goods, produce services. But even our academic space has changed. The curriculum in schools, primary, secondary, higher education, tertiary, has changed to focus on that. So we think that the ground has been walked well. And the NDS2, no doubt, with the growing confidence, and the growing confidence also is shown by the level of foreign investors showing interest in the country, the engagement, re-engagement, and the focus on governance, I think, has been accelerated. And this, on its own, has set Zimbabwe on a path of good management, results-based management. And people talk performance everywhere. And I think those are the necessary ingredients which are underpinned by the very fundamental things. The fundamental thing is you have to fill in people's stomachs. Food security, nutrition security have been addressed. We've seen record yields in agricultural production, and that's important. We have also seen people having local investors building new manufacturing plants, infrastructure booming, road networks developed during the NDS1, and this will continue in the NDS2.
Well, speaking to some of those achievements, and for the benefit of our viewers at home and those online viewers, some of those achievements, if we are to look at the NDS1, as Professor Mafumo reiterated, those achievements key in terms of that inclusive and transformative agenda, development agenda under the Second Republic. Infrastructure development, we saw, of course, the construction of the Trabablis interchange. We also saw that rehabilitation of the Robert Mugabe International Airport. There was, of course, the building of the new Parliament building, Mount Hampton, well, through some of that engagement and re-engagement. But, of course, Professor Paul Mafumo, we will continue to engage you in terms of what is taking place today and looking to the Nds2 launch. And we will be taking it to our studios at Pockets Hill. And we will later on be speaking to more stakeholders here at State House.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Yes, we are indeed anticipating the launch of the National Development Strategy 2 at the State House, where, of course, we have seen our team, Monica Chanda, together with Ketli Gwindes. They were speaking to Professor Paul Mafumo, the Vice Chancellor from the University of Zimbabwe, who was explaining what actually happened during the Transitional Stabilization Program, how it actually worked. And, of course, to further take on that conversation, we are still with Dr. Zach Murerwa, together with Mr. Mishek Ugaro in the building, two economic analysts helping us unpack NDS2. Now, we have heard Prof. Mafumo from the UZ, they're explaining how TSP brought stability. Now, talking of austerity for prosperity, was prosperity realized, or prosperity is the ultimate goal in 2030? I'll start with you, Mr. Ugaro.
Yes. This is actually the crux of the matter. And I expect the NDS2 to be focusing a lot on this aspect. Because, as Prof said, we have achieved a lot. I can just cite a few numbers.
Right.
The economy has grown from about 20 billion at the beginning to now 52 billion. That's more than double. Our forex receipts, foreign exchange receipts have grown. We used to receive about 5 billion per year. Currently, we are now sitting at 11 billion per year. When we started, we didn't have reserves. We had zero reserves. As we speak now, reserves in the central bank are just under $1 billion and looking and growing and fast. Infrastructure, 24,000 kilometers of roads, networks. Energy, just cite Wange 7 and 8. Production up from 1,200 megawatts to now 1,700 megawatts, although it's still below the national requirement of 2,300 megawatts. However, against all these achievements, informalization in the economy is still very high, and it is growing. So the creation of decent work, because the benefit should really filter through the creation, the rise of industry, the rise of manufacturing, and the creation of decent work and jobs. So this is where now we need to be focusing on it. I am looking forward to hearing what the minister is going to present in NDS2. I know there are 6 value chains that have been identified as to promote value addition in those value chains. I think this is in line with what I personally expect.
Right. Doc, Mr. Ugaro here made reference to how things were and how they are now. Yeah. Taking a look at, obviously, more than double from around 20 billion economic growth to around 50 now. And he's talking about the reserves, which are zero then, now it's much, much better. Is that growth felt by an ordinary person who is walking in the street now? Can you explain that growth?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think what is important is that we measure depending from what perspective and from what platform that we are sitting on.
Right.
As an economist, I can use econometrics and use figures in statistical analysis to find out the trajectory, the growth as it happened since TSP, NDS1 to now the launch. Three things for me come out very clearly. They come out very clearly. We were, and I keep on repeating this, we were in a situation where in terms of the macroeconomic fundamentals, we're just not right, okay? So the intervention to have a stabilization plan worked, and they worked brilliantly so. But then we had external shocks. We had externally induced shocks that came to us, the sanctions. We had, commodity prices worldwide, and domestically we had challenges in terms of stability of our currency. And when the Second Republic came in, that's where the wonderful job was done. First was to accept and recognize that we had challenges. And I believe that for us to progress, introspection, economic introspection becomes paramount. And then we say, these are the challenges that we are facing. And traditionally so, we know and we knew the sectors that would actually make our GDP grow. It was agriculture. Then unfortunately, 2023, the El Nino induced, came in. And then agriculture, there was shrinkage. Those are examples of external factors that we had no control over. But we also had issues pertaining to infrastructure because there was no funding for the desired infrastructure to kickstart industry to its desired level. Consequently, capacity utilization. I can talk statistics, they can mean certain things, but there was now a decline 2017, 20, and then when the Second Republic came in, bringing in the philosophy of open for investment, there was now, the economy began to react, right? Then the other intervention, the third one, which we must be aware of, is that the confidence. You see, you need to instill confidence. You can never measure it. The confidence which we lost in terms of confidence in the financial service sector was really not good. And there was therefore then in those interventions to bring in confidence. And now you can see what is happening, the transactions that are happening. You now can see the fruits of NDS1 in terms of stabilization. Because you need to look at two issues. Right. You need to look at fiscal intervention, monetary policy intervention, and the two have to work hand in hand if you are really going to measure to the extent to which how successful NDS1 was. So it was. And I'm happy personally to say nobody suffered after 2023. Nobody died of hunger. Jobs, yes, there was a shrinkage. The informal sector then began to grow. But I will look at it differently when we come to discussing probably what can be done to ensure that the informal sector is formalized, contributes meaningfully to GDP, because it's now constituting, it could be 68 to 70% of some of the activities that we've got. And then to answer your question, for the ordinary person, yes, we had 14 national priority areas under NDS1. And they looked at issues such as issues pertaining to good governance, to ensure that ordinarily the ordinary person in the street is able to meet their day-to-day lives, decent work, the provisions of the Labour Act, the Tripartite Negotiating Forum, all those were then implemented. And I tell you, the transition from TSP to NDS1 and the developments that have taken place, particularly 2024 and 2025, are very pleasing. Our economy definitely is growing, and both the World Bank and IMF have confirmed, and this year we're heading for over 6% GDP growth rate.
Mr. Goro, I want us to zero in on what he said, highlighting the effects of natural disasters on the development trajectory that the country was taking. Still, they are affected. Not that we wish for them to happen again, but still a possibility they might still come. Yeah. What should NDS2 do, at least to prepare for such and to not deter the direction in which the country is going?
Yes, precisely what I was saying, that my expectations of NDS2 is to see how we are going to address issues of climate change, issues of technological developments in order to improve productivity. I would like to see if this NDS2 captures into its plan the ability to take productivity for this country up, so that when good years are good, we produce as much as we can. When years are bad, we are covered from a buffer. You correctly indicate that external factors really impacted. I will give the example of the almost 8% contraction, GDP contraction in 2019. That was COVID lockdown. And following it in 2024 drought. So you find these cycles coming in. When you think you're growing, then you are hit, and you think you're growing, then you are hit. So we definitely need to create a robust pathway which can absorb these shocks when they happen. I'm happy that Doc acknowledges that the question of jobs, decent work per se, is the ultimate transmission mechanism of benefits of economic growth. Because when families now earn and they have steady future jobs, they have social security. When they retire, they've got pensions. That is really the ultimate goal, and that is really the upper middle income society that the president is talking about. So I would like to see NDS2 focusing on that. I'm happy with the 6 value chains that the NDS2 will be looking at. So, in fact, in today's budget in the afternoon, I'll be keenly looking towards incentives towards those value chains so that they can attract investment into those areas, because the results will be jobs. At the end of the day, we need jobs, but that are productive.
So we have seen a lot of ministers at the State House, and for almost every minister looks like they are at the State House. Later on, like you said, we are going to see the national budget, and the budget now is coming at a point where it has to be in sync with the national priorities, the national development strategy. When you talk of what has happened in the NDS1, of those 14 priority areas, now they are being streamlined to 10. What does it mean? Are we now focusing ourselves towards what we feel are the last buttons to take us to 2030?
Right. It's important for us to understand and evaluate the effectiveness and the achievements that we made in amongst the 14 national priority areas. You can't get 100%.
Right.
Okay, you can't get 80%. It's what matters are the efforts. All right. For example, if you look at good governance, what are the efforts that have been put in to ensure that there's transparency, there's good governance? To look about social security, what is it that we've done, and what is it that remains? Inevitably, it's not a question of numbers. You can talk in terms of 14 to 10, but there is this, the interlocking, which comes in which there is need for continuity, because you still need to fulfill the tenets and the basic requirements of various SDGs. And ourselves, we've got a vision, which is upper middle income by 2030. What then does that entail? Because the ordinary person has heard so much of the phrase, but what is it that should be reflected in practice? So, in terms of, we are very good in terms of blueprints in this. They are brilliant. But we need to up our game in terms of the implementation aspect of it. So, yeah, we can say, well done, we've done very well, we have identified 10. Yes, we've identified these areas, but we need a roadmap to effective monitoring, good governance, good issues. People who are committed, government agencies must perform. Let me just give you an example. I mean, 1980, 1985, parastatals were contributing 36 to 38% of GDP. Now, it's below 10%. Okay? Some, I'm not saying all, some need to embrace the principles and tenets of good performance, and hence the introduction of performance-based salaries and performance-based management systems. Those are ways of having checks and balances. So we need to identify the key areas which are necessary and the institutions which would drive the identified 10 priority areas. And that for me includes financial service sector, business in totality, government agencies and parastatals, and remember, local authorities must play the game. We have talked so much about devolution, but if for the ordinary man, follow up to the question that you were asking, the ordinary person has to see it
I might have to stop you.
So that's where we are.
Yeah, we will actually come back to that. But yes,
Okay.
we also had our team at the State House, and of course, they'll be speaking to various ministers. And now let's get back to Monica and the interview with the Minister of Industry and Commerce.
Well, pursuant to the aspirations of achieving that upper middle income economy by 2030, it is, of course, a Vision 2030. And with Nds2 being launched today at State House by His Excellency the President, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, we get to take a look at the achievements of Nds1, which runs its course and ends this December 2025. But with NDS2 being a succession to the NDS1, if I can put it that way, we will be speaking to the Minister of Industry and Commerce, that is Honorable Minister Mangaliso Ndlovu, as we get to understand and also take us through the achievements under his sector, under his purview. Honorable Minister, it's good to have you as we are talking NDS1 and NDS2 as we launch today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure joining you today, and good morning to viewers.
Well, we're talking those achievements of NDS1 under your purview. Talk us through those. We know that we did have 14 priority areas under the NDS1, and we did see that manufacturing did come out tops during the course of this year. But more to those achievements, what should we know?
Thank you very much. I think it's important to first appreciate the level of national planning that the Second Republic has delivered. TSP came, it was a painful period, but we had to endure for us to really work on the fundamentals. And when we got to NDS1, our pillar really was more on moving the economy up the value chain. And when we look at the last 5 years, NDS1 has delivered remarkably well, not just in our pillar, but right across all the 14 pillars. You'll realize that when you analyze all our value chains, the level of value addition really backed by the primary production levels from mining, from agriculture. We have moved a step further to strengthen our agro value chains. Mineral value addition has also gone up. But I think NDS2 will take it really that notch up high, especially when you look at our critical minerals, your lithium, your platinum. 2026, 2027 will be reaching new heights. So it's really, in my view, the precision in our national development planning that you got to really give the Second Republic the credit.
Giving that credit to the Second Republic, manufacturing did perform very well with that result, 15%. But if we are to couple it with that 11%, coming to about 26%, including that retail. You speak of those value chains, you speak about beneficiation, but crucial as we're getting into NDS2, what will be the plan? What will be the strategy? You have been having some of the strategic workshops, but for the benefit of the viewers at home, having to understand under your purview, what is the structure like as we usher in NDS2?
So we have a number of critical priorities. In the next few weeks, we'll be launching our industrial development policy, which is really meant to be the implementing arm of NDS2 with regards to the structural transformation pillar. One of our key focus really is to have this growth in our economy translated to the benefits right across the board. So we need to have our small to medium companies supporting the entire economy. So the local content strategy will be very pivotal. We have to make sure that all these big companies, particularly those who have given special economic zones, have to demonstrate how they are benefiting the entire economy. This is very crucial. We are moving on to strengthen our agro value chains. We want to make sure that all the 32 identified agro value chains have personalized or individual strategies where we analyze from primary production, where do we get the raw materials, the inputs, all the way, and we want to see how we manufacture those locally as a country. We are also looking at new sectors that are coming in. Just yesterday I was visiting a vehicle assembly plant that will be coming into production next year in March, and we are looking at how best we can make sure that procurement is domesticated. We cannot continue spending more than $10 billion out of the country. This has to grow our economy. We've done well in our exports, rising from around 2 billion in 2017 to close to 9 billion in 2025. That's how exponential we have been growing in terms of our economy. But we need to deal with our import bill. It's very high. So we have strategies that we'll be launching, as I have said, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I must say. It's just pending cabinet approval, and we'll be able to inform the nation how we want to consolidate under NDS2 the gains that we have been experiencing in NDS1.
Consolidating those gains, we also speak the industrialization agenda, and we also know that given some of those 10 priority areas in NDS2, they are taking a cue from NDS1. Let's touch on re-engagement and engagement from your sector thrust. How have you performed in terms of those engagements, those re-engagements with foreign companies, for instance, in terms of investments and industry per se?
Again, this is a pillar that foreign affairs have led very well. And on our side, what was priority there or critical was to engage potential investors, but also to engage markets, because our production has to find markets, both domestic and in the international markets. As I've been highlighting, our exports have been growing. We were not too happy with the export of manufactured goods, but I'm happy that in the last year alone, they grew by more than 45%, which is really signaling the trajectory that we are now taking. Talking of foreign direct investment, we have really pushed the ceiling even higher. Right across the manufacturing sector, we have been, I think, third highest recipient of foreign direct investment. And these are the fruits of the president opening our country for business, saying we are friends to all, enemy to none. And I think this message has been received very well. That's why we are seeing people coming in. People have tried to package Zimbabwe as a risky destination, but I think the facts and the numbers speak for themselves. I don't think there is a safer investment destination that will give you the returns that Zimbabwe gives. That's why we are sitting at the top.
Maybe we also take advantage the budget presentation for 2026 later on today by the finance minister. If we are to talk about the NDS2, it will be that implementation through the budget, of course. What are we anticipating from your sector in terms of industry and commerce? What are you expecting from that, and given with the NDS2?
Yes, we expect quite a lot. The budget is very important for our ministry. For starters, we really want to make sure that if there are any incentives, let these incentives be pro-production. Let them be targeted to those sectors that are really producing. We also hope that our Industrial Development Fund will get a good allocation. We want to continue to grow our ability to intervene in the highly productive sectors. We are also going to be in the first year of really full implementation of the reserved sectors. This is a very important strategy where we want to make sure that our locals play a critical part in the business ecosystems. There are certain sectors with low entry barriers, they are not capital intensive. Our view is that if we are to bring foreign direct investment, let it really go where it matters the most. Highly capital intensive, high entry barriers, they're able to go in there. They have got the markets out there, and we have our own companies, small to medium and big even, coming in to support. So we want to see the budget speaking to these issues, how we are going to support these sectors. The retail sector has recovered very well, and we hope to consolidate these. There are minor VAT issues that we are raising, especially the issue of paying VAT in the currency of trade. That there are instances where you would have procured in USD, but you are a supermarket, you sell in ZIG. They have been having a few challenges. We have engaged Treasury. We hope that these issues will be addressed. Overall, I must say that Treasury has engaged quite widely, both the private sector and ourselves as the ministry. And I must say, from our discussions, we are anticipating a lot of progress.
Well, the Honourable Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honourable Mangaliso Ndlovu, thank you for speaking to us, and all the best today as we usher in the NDS2.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And to our viewers at home, we continue to give you proceedings live from State House, and we have the launch of NDS2. It does have 10 pillars, but giving you context and taking you back to NDS1 with 14 priority areas. I know I have my co-host Kurt Lee here speaking to the NDS1 and some of those critical achievements. If we are to look at some of those pillars, infrastructure development, which is a very key, especially if you're talking an industrialized upper middle income economy. We saw some of that construction of Wange Power Station 7 and 8. That was one of the big infrastructure projects. So we saw dam construction, Gwaishangan, Kunji Dam, amongst many of those structures.
Absolutely, and we did see the construction of the Trebablis interchange. Once again, we also know of the new Parliament building being in Mount Hampton. There, a monument of note that has also happened through this National Development Strategy 1 and cascading into National Development Strategy 2. There is a particular focus with more and more projects, as mentioned earlier by some of the honourable members who have joined us here on this broadcast. We also have had the chance to have an appreciation of some of the projects that particularly industry and commerce, and we did hear earlier from the education sector itself, from Professor Paul Mapfumo, who's the Vice Chancellor of the University of Zimbabwe. And all the same, we have an appreciation once again of many projects that are the cornerstone of our economy, which speaks to agriculture, which speaks to mining, which speaks to transport and infrastructure. And yes, we are going to be hearing from some of the industry leaders once again, who are also going to have a chance to tell us a little bit about what they are expecting from this National Development Strategy 2, and also taking a look in hindsight, giving a recap of what National Development Strategy 1 had to offer. At the present moment, this broadcast from the News and Current Affairs desk is going to take you back to the desk itself in our studios at Pockets Hill, where on standby our presenter is going to give us more facts, opinions, as well as matters around NDS2. Over to you.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Sure that you stay informed and you stay engaged as we do discuss the launch of the NDS2 National Development Strategy number 2 that will be launched today at the State House by the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emerson Adambudzo Mnangagwa, and we were hearing interviews and opinions, and as well as the captains of industry, the ministers explaining what is actually happened. And in studio, I'm still with Dr. Zach Murero together with Mr. Mishek Ugaro. Now, Mr. Ugaro, we've heard that the Minister of Industry and Commerce explaining in terms of what has happened in the industry sector, and he said the retail has actually recovered very well. Yes. Do you agree with him, and what has actually happened in that line?
Yes, but first of all, I'm very excited by the performance of manufacturing or the contribution of manufacturing sector into the GDP of the country. As he rightly said, when we started on NDS1, industrial capacity utilization was down to about 35 to 40%. In NDS2, it's now up, sitting at about 62%. And resultantly, the contribution of manufacturing into the GDP is up from about 11% to now 15% in the same period, as the Minister mentioned. That's an exciting story. Because if you look at the developmental states or states, if we were to learn from the Asian tigers, or even China itself, manufacturing has to be about a quarter of the GDP, so about 20 to 25%. So with the manufacturing contribution rising now, what I'm saying about the NDS2 is the attraction of investment more into the 6 proposed priority value chains, so that at least we can see that contribution go up. I'll just mention where I borrowed these value chains from the minister's speech at the ZANU-PF annual conference. He actually hinted in his report on the 6 value chain priorities. And there's the pharmaceuticals industry, then the fertilizer and agrochemicals, then the iron and steel value chain, then the motor industry, which actually the minister mentioned that there's a car manufacturing firm being opened sometime early next year, the agro-processing, and then packaging. So these are the 6 priority value chains that I think industry will be focusing on. And so I'm very keen, as I said at the beginning, to hear in the budget this afternoon. Okay, first hear the NDS2 priorities and confirmation of these, and then in the budget to see the first steps as we build towards promoting these value chains. Ultimately, the thing that I'm so intimate about is jobs.
I can see your excitement.
Jobs. Because when people have jobs and they've got social security, and they know that when I retire, I am safe, I've got a good pension, and all children know that my father or my mother goes to work and they pay school fees, then we have achieved. And that's real, the upper middle income society.
No,
I can see you want to please go ahead.
Yeah, I understand what my colleague is saying. But I think what is important for us, let me first of all address the question that the retail sector has done wonders. Right. I think when we look at performance of retail, we should not look performance of retail companies. We are looking at retail in generally. And here I think we need, and the ordinary person on the street will realize, coming from a shortage period, okay, going back to 2018, to 2008, 2018 things started to pick up. We now have abundant supply of basic goods and commodities. Remember, at some stage we had to import this. This economy has been very episodic. We had shortages. Now, you measure the performance of the manufacturing sector by its ability to supply and inject into the market the basic demands of a general person, of the ordinary employees, of ordinary workers, of ordinary go-goes in Mrambinda and wherever they are. So right now at the moment, the retail sector, the distribution sector is working very well. What then is now needed is our primary production in terms of agriculture, mining, the primary aspect of it is doing well. But the missing link is the value addition. Now, if you are going to have value addition, look at what is happening with lithium. Look at what is happening with tobacco. If we are going to have, of the 350 million kgs of tobacco that we've broken in terms of a record, if you were to have value addition on that, and I'm making a follow-up to the remarks made by the minister here, more incentives have to be given to industry. The voice of business, we have to engage it. The voice of labor, we have to also to engage it. Then we are able to now bring in investors who understand our philosophies, our culture, our desires and values of our workforce and our population. That way, we then can grow. So I expect, as we go to NDS2, an industrialization, robust industrialization program. The minister, you've heard him, he's saying he's coming as very an industrial policy, and they are coming up with ways and means to get what is needed. But for me, two things are critical: funding and incentives, accompanied by infrastructure. Remember, we've always had the traditional challenge pertaining to electricity, water, we are not yet over in terms of that challenge. Yeah, because where industry, some of the constraints that were faced by industry was the conversion to generator, okay, from normal, electricity supplies. That came with a cost.
Yes.
And that cost is then passed on to the consumer. Now, we need to be very proactive and say in terms of energy, in terms of utilization of green energy, in terms of small-scale power stations that are coming up, what is it that we need to do? That way, then the manufacturing sector, I am cocksure, it can actually contribute as much as 20% to GDP.
And it won't only, be transferring cost.
It won't be transferring cost. So what you are doing, you're actually providing services. You are actually meeting and feeding into the demands of the market. Because as you correctly said, how do you measure that things are well? You measure, a person walks into a supermarket, he's got a choice. Remember years ago, you used to walk into a supermarket and you are met with empty shelves. Right?
You only buy what's available.
Right, and you could only buy water and baputi. So look at it as it is now. Things are beginning to work, and we need to seriously look at those incentives. It is my hope that the Minister of Finance, when he presents his budget, will also touch on the role of the manufacturing and distributive sector in terms of supplying basic goods and services to our population. Why should we go to South Africa for basic goods and services? And remember, if you look at the first quarter trade statistics, our imports bill coming from South Africa actually declined, which is an indication that the manufacturing sector is now beginning to fill in the gap. Yeah.
Interesting. I like the connection I'm making with NDS2 and the budget, because this is how these two eventually work together.
Yes.
But coming back to you, Mr. Ogara, I want us to jump. If we were to jump today and be in 2030, that we are saying when we get there, we want to be an upper mid-income economy.
Yes.
What will be happening? What economic activities will be taking place for us to say, now we are the promised land? What sort of activities, development that we can see to say, this is an upper mid-income economy?
Yes, I look forward to enhanced international trade, especially into the continent, using obviously our value-added finished products as exports, so that the export receipts, component of export receipts increases, the proportion of manufactured goods increases. Currently, our exports, the merchandise exports, are predominantly primary goods, raw materials, minerals. We're exporting raw minerals. So I'm looking forward to value adding these. The minister touched on lithium. I'm looking forward to exporting batteries actually in 2030.
Not on,
You see, so that the component of finished products revenue receipts increases. More so, I do expect at that point that if we have managed to attain our target, the minister is targeting 5% annual growth in the next 5 years. If we maintain that, I know that projections show that we will be around 67 billion. That will be close to the upper middle income, if not already at the middle income society. So I look forward to less informalization and increased formal sector, reduced taxation, because now the tax base will be wider. I look forward to increasing foreign direct investment, which, by the way, is on the uptick as we speak. This last year, it has gone up. So we hope we can hit the billions in terms of forex receipts to compare with our comparator partners, countries like Botswana, Mozambique, around us, Zambia.
Right. Now, when we talk, of course, of becoming an upper middle income economy, like you're rightfully saying that this is what you're looking forward to. And now we come back to what's currently happening in Zimbabwe. The president himself is encouraging people to do their own businesses, be your own employer.
Yes.
At the same time, we're also looking at a situation where we want to formalize the informal sector.
Yes.
Where do you create the balance? Because people tend to think, when you create your own employment, you're going into the informal sector. How do you create that balance?
This is a very interesting topic, Ian. You see, do you know that the States is based on SMEs?
Is it?
Yes. There are SMEs that run the U.S. economy.
Formalized, essentially.
Yes. So we need that. So I'm excited by that speech by the president. By the way, I listened to him. He said, "Make money."
Yes.
I mean, let me quote
Repeatedly
exactly what he
said so,
said.
yeah.
He said, "Make money," and that's correct. He's creating a middle class, and a middle class is essential for any economic growth for any country. So yes, people must start businesses, but be formal. Pay your taxes. Be registered. I'm not bragging. I'm registered. I pay my taxes.
If whatever line you break, if you are
See?
registered.
So that's what he's saying. Start it. It's small. It's a one-man operation, two-man operation. Grow it, but be formal. Be work. Be on the ladder.
Yeah.
So that you are supporting the economy overall.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what is important for the benefit of viewers and everybody is to understand what is the standard of living that you should expect for an upper middle income society. What is it? Because we talk so much about it, but you want to see visibility, you want to see what is it. All right, let me start by being very practical. Let's look at countries that you are familiar with that have achieved that status. You're looking at Namibia, you're looking at South Africa, you're looking at Angola, you're looking at Ethiopia, you're looking at other countries that are actually there. The IMF and World Bank, you've got statistics of measures in terms of GNP, what says this constitutes upper middle income. It does not talk about the source of income.
Right.
All right? What is important is wherever you are you generating income and are you contributing to the productivity, to the GDP of the economy?
Right.
So whether you are gainfully employed and you have got the 8 to 4:30 type of scenario work, or you are a person who are at a home industry, you are still contributing, and or you are in the informal sector, which therefore brings it to the point that at the moment our economy is highly informalized. You cannot ignore the activities that are coming from the informal sector. Let me give you an example of the mining sector, gold production, coming from the small scale miners. Of the targeted 40 tons of gold that we want, I'll tell you the bulk of it, over 65%, is coming from small scale, who are small scale producers. And I'll tell you of the experience that we had 2 or 3 years ago, where you then removed certain VAT or other restrictions from them. The result was productivity, and we are having productivity, and that's contributing to gold reserves. And gold reserves are a mark in terms of benchmarking and ensuring that we've got a solid base on which our currency operates. So what you need to do in terms of the informal sector, the previous efforts through the Finance Act of setting up presumptive taxes have generally been ignored. Because we need to educate our people and including those in the informal sector, the benefits of formalization.
Right.
You have access to capital, you have access to loans, you are recognized,
Tenders.
you are given tenders, you actually formalize in your own small way, even supplying tomatoes to a hotel, you are able to do that.
Right.
So let's not look at industrialization and growth as having setting up of huge factories. Remember, with digitalization, with artificial intelligence coming in, you cannot no longer talk in terms of mass employment. What you need to do is to zero in where people are and make them more productive, contribute to the fiscus, and their contribution, therefore, we have nothing else except productivity. That's what makes the economy grow.
All right, interesting. And of course, like we said, our team on the ground at the State House who always have got these guest captains of industry, CEOs, to explain and break down how they're also working within their sector for the country to realize an upper mid-income economy by 2030. And the Nds2 that is set to be launched today is, of course, the final lap in the Nds1. Now, let's go back to State House to hear more interviews.
where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Over to the State House shortly for more interviews as Monica and Ketley are still on the ground, and they've seen a lot of ministers, cabinet ministers at the State House as they anticipate His Excellency to arrive and officially launch the National Development Strategy number 2. And of course, remember that later on we'll also be giving you live proceedings from the new Parliament building, where the national budget for 2026 will be presented by the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, Professor Mthuli Ncube. And these two, NDS1 and the budget, very key documents that will shape where the country will go next and eventually for the next 5 years. Now, before we go back to the State House, you're explaining what exactly will happen, where the income will come from, for us to be able to say upper middle income economy. And people will say, how much will I earn? How much will I have? Where will I get the money? Right. What answer can you give to someone asking that?
So from a statistical point of view, at the beginning of every year, the World Bank and IMF actually give you parameters of what constitutes low income, upper income, and so on, other societies and whatever. So look, it's the totality of that income. I think currently ranging, I'm not so sure, from 4,400 something to about 12,000. Yes, so you are looking at that which is accruing to you per annum. All right. So those are activities, but I think the point that people miss, it's not what you are earning, because you might have a situation where somebody says, look, upper in middle income says I should be earning 12,000, therefore I should negotiate for a salary of 1,000, right. Yeah, to meet that. You are looking at income. It is achievable. I am so confident that Zimbabwe, we are going to achieve it, because we need to understand activities of our people. Where are they? Look at the youngsters, the farming that is taking place. They can generate income. Right. Look at our youngsters, the music industry, the arts industry. They can generate income. Look at our vendors, the traditional vendors. They also can generate income. So we need now to have policies that actually encourage all these and run away from the cat and mouse chase. What we've seen in certain urban areas, it's not ideal. We need to really organize that. The informal sector will contribute and will provide earning to our people.
Mr. Ogawa, are you as confident as he is that Zimbabwe will actually achieve that?
Yes, I am. In fact, I am so confident as to call this so-called informal sector. I don't call it informal, by the way. I call it the SME sector.
Unfortunately, I have to stop you there. There's another interview at the State House. We'll come back and I get back to your point. But yes, we're crossing over now to the State House for more interviews. Guys, it's over to you.
We carry forth the conversation here at the State House. We're broadcasting live from the State House at number 1 Chancellor Avenue in Harare, Zimbabwe. And of course, this is a broadcaster courtesy of the ZBC News and Current Affairs desk. Now, of course, all things to do with the transition between the NDS1 into the NDS2. And at the present moment, I am joined by the ZEDA CEO, Mr. Tafadzwa Chinamo. How are you feeling today, sir?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Absolutely, and it's such a pleasure to be having you here on air, where we are discussing all things to do, firstly, with the transitional stabilization program, as well as also taking a look and having an appreciation of some of the alignments of Vision 2030 through the NDS1. Now, briefly comment, or perhaps you can share with us what some of the key hallmarks and highlights have been through ZEDA, and also getting into the conversation that intersects what we are doing today. The goodbye to NDS1 and hello to NDS2.
All right, thanks. So I think to start with, ZEDA is a creation of NDS1. I think NDS1 really signaled the coming out of Zimbabwe as a destination for investment, as a country that's needing infrastructure, that's needing development. So to underpin that, an institution like ours was formed primarily to ensure that we lay the groundwork for any investor to come into the country. So there are various pillars at the NDS1, and a lot of those pillars need the support of private investment, of private capital. So this is really why ZIDA was set up. And from day one, our mission really has been to support NDS1, to direct investments to those priority areas. And more importantly, I think when any investor comes into a country, they are new to the country, they're not really sure of how things work, and this is why ZIDA was there. So a main tenet of ZIDA was the establishment of the One-Stop Investment Services Center. Essentially, our leadership realized that, yes, with all these aspirations that we have under NDS1, it will still be futile if an investor still had to go through a lot of processes and jump through many hoops and so forth to just achieve or rather to realize the investment. So this is why we were set up. You would also see that the past, under NDS1, government made it a priority that infrastructure in the main, government itself was constrained in a lot of respects in funding that infrastructure. So there was a call through us to say that let's partner the private sector. So you'll see that we've pushed through a lot of public-private partnerships. I think ones that stand out, okay, that are already operational, things like the border post at Bridge. Now that was classic collaboration between private sector and government. So yeah, so this is where we fit in as ZIDA to just complement all the arms of government, the institutions of government, to ensure that the funding that they need is acquired. Where government can provide that, obviously we look domestically and internationally for that capital.
Absolutely. And let's take into cognizance, earlier on we were speaking to members of the public office, but obviously with your chiming into the conversation regarding the matter of the day, which is the National Development Strategy 2, perhaps there is that space that needs to be occupied within the private sector that speaks highly to the development of our nation, Zimbabwe. Perhaps the ease of doing business. One of the 14 pillars that have been adapted within the space and landscape of NDS1 speaks highly to the idea of making sure that any investor who comes in makes sure that they have a direct channel and perhaps a smooth flow of a channel. Can you perhaps briefly comment on that position as far as ZIDA is concerned?
No, that is very true. So ease of doing business, I think, comes in two parts. So there's the actual cost of doing business, and I think we've seen already through the Ministry of Finance that there were a lot of areas that had already been identified and fees have been brought down there. But fees is one thing. More importantly, I think for business is the time they spend in just understanding the web of bureaucracy within government. So under NDS2, one of our tasks as ZIDA is to make sure that we digitize as much of government as possible. So that journey, we've begun it, and it essentially starts with us understanding what processes that we're talking about. So if you speak of any license, it could be, any license that you can think of. The first thing is anyone applying for that license should know, first and foremost, what the journey is like. What am I required to do? And oftentimes we found out that it's not always clear, right? That information is not there. So that's what we then started mapping. Once we've mapped that, we then want to then streamline where we believe that there's unnecessary processing or duplication, and also identifying the best arm of government or organ of government to carry out such licensing and permitting. Ultimately, and I'm hoping by the end of NDS2, and this is our target as well, is that a lot of these processes should be available to anyone. It could be a local person, a citizen, a foreign investor, a business person. Those services should be able, you should be able to access them online, meaning that you can start an application process and complete it online. Once that happens, I think ease of doing business, we are now talking in the realm of those countries where we believe that they've done well in that regard. But it's a key component of it. It frustrates people, and I think it turns away business as well.
And perhaps obviously a solution to some of these long processes as well as tedious tasks that people have to go through, perhaps just to be able to bring in foreign direct investments. There is the digitization of the economy itself, and perhaps that coming as a solution within the 10 pillars of NDS2. But briefly, I would like for you to touch about the engagement and re-engagement policy. Obviously, churning in foreign direct investment in Zimbabwe, speaking highly once again to the message that is being brought about through some of the mantras as well as position, not just in Africa. We know of Agenda 2063. We also know in Zimbabwe of Vision 2030. Let's briefly have a conversation about the re-engagement and engagement policies that have been put in place, even with regards to the foreign direct investment that you yourself have witnessed.
Yeah, so I think re-engagement is key. It's important to tell your own story, your own successes, and I think that's the starting point of any re-engagement. And so what we've seen over the past 5 years, and I'm hoping that we'll continue to see that, is that government, right from the president himself, he's been to a lot of places. We've signed a lot of MOUs. A lot of that dialogue had been lost along the way. And I think just going back to start that conversation, that discussion is important. As a result of that, we've seen a lot of missions or business delegations coming from many countries. Last year, as did ourselves, we hosted delegations from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce at the various, they set up within their various states in the U.S. We also had a delegation from France, from the EU, from Sweden, from Portugal, from Poland. This is just, the fruits of, I guess, that outreach to say that please come and do business in Zimbabwe. When we launched NDS1, the mantra, like you said, was Zimbabwe is open for business. And you've got to follow that up, obviously, by then demonstrating to those that we want to come in and invest into Zimbabwe that Zimbabwe truly is open for the business. So I think it is working, and we are seeing it. So that's dialogue at the very highest level. But on the ground, if we were to share with you the sort of investors that we're getting, the ones who are issuing licenses or investment licenses to, they're coming from all over the world. So it's not one particular country that's coming to Zimbabwe. Testament again and proof to the fact that the re-engagement is working, and even the inquiries that we're getting, they're coming from all over the world. Yeah, so we're quite pleased about that.
Absolutely, and Zimbabwe is open for business, as you have heard, and through the NDS1 cascading into the NDS2, we have also seen a growth with regards to the image of Zimbabwe. We know one of the pillars that also speak to the culture, the image, and the general perception of the nation Zimbabwe. Speaking highly once again to some of the spaces you've occupied, you did mention many countries that have also come and also had their voices heard within the Zimbabwean economic landscape. How best have we been defining and refining that image in that space from a cosmetic point of view?
Yeah, so I think first of all is consistency with messaging, and I think the mantra, I think it might sound repetitive, but it also reinforces the fact that we mean what we're saying. Yeah, and then obviously you back that up now. So by saying Zimbabwe is open for business, it has to, on the ground, the experience has to speak to that. So again, these reforms of ease of doing business, okay, we are talking about, we've realized that, look, as much as we might say that Zimbabwe is open for business, but as long as the processes and just the day-to-day grind of someone getting permitted and so forth is still a mission,
So what we say has to mirror the actions on the ground.
Yeah, and as a result of that, the flowering, so to speak, we've seen in tourism, I think Forbes magazine, this is an American magazine, voting us as the best destination for 2025.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot. I think, yeah, exactly. So I think that's also testament to that. And even the sectors into which we are attracting foreign investments, again, tells you that, something is happening on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely, and perhaps as we close up the interview, we do know that some of the backbones of the economy speak highly to agriculture, mining infrastructure, transport. What is your certain assumption or perhaps perception with regards to where NDS2 will best perform, perhaps in order, top three?
All right. So the way that we've looked at it ourselves.
Just a prediction.
All right, yeah. So I think renewable energy, there is a lot of interest in that.
Okay.
And I think we are well placed for that. We are also working proactively with the Ministry of Energy and all the players in the sector, and our utilities. I would also say agriculture. I think with climate change, with the dams that we have, with the investment that I'm talking about in renewable energy, if you can improve our ability to irrigate and then drought-proof our agriculture, I think that should be a winner. Manufacturing in the terms of value addition, I think that's another one where I'm also quite hopeful. So this is not really in any particular order, but tourism also, I think that that rating by Forbes does well for
give us a boost.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So they need to, as visitors start coming here, they also see the gaps that we have. We still have a deficit in terms of room capacity. Our conferencing facilities also need upgrade. So I'm seeing, and I'm confident that there will be one or two big investments there. So those are the four that I would say that we are really actively pursuing ourselves and marketing. And government itself is also supporting us in ensuring that the road into investing into those sectors is smooth.
Absolutely, and we do wish you a smooth ride into NDS2. Thank you so much, Mr. Tafazo Chinamo.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have just been joined by the ZEDA Chief Executive Officer, that is Mr. Tafazo Chinamo, who has got a chance once again to share with us his top four. That is the tourism, manufacturing industry, the conferencing facilities, as well as agriculture. So we do also want to hear from you, your views, thoughts, and opinions, where you do think that Zimbabwe will best benefit through the National Development Strategy too. And yes, we are broadcasting live here at the Zimbabwe State House on number 1 Chancellor Avenue in Harare, Zimbabwe, where we're taking a look at all the things to do with what NDS1 has brought. And we are also going to be bringing you a broadcast once again of the national budget, which we will be crossing over to later this afternoon, courtesy of the news and current affairs desk here on ZBC. But for now, we'll take you back to the studio, the Pockets Hill headquarters, where Ian Wambe is on standby with more updates.
Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
And we are here to make sure that you stay informed and you do stay engaged. That's why ZBC Current Affairs is the best for your latest news. And Ketley there was just speaking to ZEDA CEO, explaining in terms of their business opportunities. And I know, Mr. Ogaro, you've got a very keen interest in how the re-engagement and engagement discourse shapes business in Zimbabwe, and you took part in that EU business delegation. Can you explain the importance of such platforms for Zimbabwe to look into investment opportunities and also create policies that attract investors, at the same time benefiting the ordinary Zimbabwean?
Indeed, Ian. You see, Zimbabwe is actually very attractive to foreign investors. It's actually not known. There's some myth both within and outside the country. The European Union Zimbabwe Business Forum, which you are referring to, which was held in Zimbabwe in May this year, actually unpacked this myth, where 29 European countries were in Zimbabwe looking for investment, trade and investment opportunities. And here we are thinking that there is actually no potential or opportunity to go into Europe. And many people were surprised when the head of the EUD, Jost, was saying there are no limits to export to Europe from Zimbabwe. You can export any quantity you want, anytime. Previously, we used to have quotas.
Right. This quota can only export so much.
And quantities.
Right.
So beef, we used to export beef, we used to export flowers, but there were quotas, there were limits. Currently, there are no limits. You can export any quantity you want into Europe. And this is what the CEO of Zida is referring to precisely. He mentioned the ease of doing business as a critical component of this attraction. People need to be aware that when I go there, I do not face bureaucracy. I will give you an example of the RDP. It's called Rwanda Development, I think RDC, Rwanda Development Corporation, the one that is similar to Zida. In fact, Zida is modeled on that one in Rwanda. You fly in the morning and you do all your registrations and licensing and everything and fly out in the evening with everything done.
Ease of doing business at its best.
And here in Zimbabwe, we are coming, and I think Zida has done a great job. And what we now need to see, going back to the last point I was making about the SMEs, the one that many people refer to as informal, we need to make this ease of them registering easy. There's no point of a guy trying to register on TAMS, which is the tax platform, and Zimra tax platform, and it takes like 10 hours for him to be registered. They simply don't have that time. They will just let it go.
Right.
It must be easy. It must just be so user-friendly. The guy just goes onto that portal, he's there, he's registered, and he does his returns, it's done. Because they are busy. You see, so they're SMEs and they're not really informal. If you look at it, most of them are actually registered. They have licenses. Even the small-scale miners, they actually have permits to mine. So they're not really informal. It's a word that we must really encourage ourselves to do away with. And once we adopt that mind frame shift, we then say, these are the SMEs, and how do we exploit and grow them to become the drivers? As I gave you an example, American economy is driven by SMEs.
SMEs, right.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Talk,
I just want to take a leaf and comment on what Mr. Kinamo was saying from a Zita perspective. I was asked the question, where are our current investors coming from?
Right.
And this answer from all over the world, all right? Which means that in terms of government policy, we neither look east, neither look west, neither look what we look everywhere. To those of you, to those who want to come and invest in Zimbabwe, I think we have had some interventions in the past where we've tried to attract a specific type of an investor. We've tried to have special economic zones. We have targeted investments. Yeah, those are lessons that we have learned from the past. Being open for business implies that the playing field is even. The incentives that are there, they are there. Because the actual investor, they look at cost of doing business in Zimbabwe. Okay? I know in the past, people have been crying about labor costs. I don't think they are all that high. People have been crying about costs of power, cost of transport. Associated with that should be the cost of doing business. And the cost of doing business, you can bring it to an ideal level through negotiations, through setting up the appropriate infrastructure. Because for business, it's not mainly power, labor, raw materials, your import-export duty, and the other backup facilities. Let's make those friendly. And I think as we move to NDS2, we need to seriously look at industrialization. That's what it is all about. And industrialization here is not building that huge, big, or whatever. It's a question of economic activities that have got value addition, beneficiation into it, and then we begin to move. So really, yeah, I would say in terms of investments and that are coming in, we still can do far much better, and this economy is actually growing, and investors should take advantage of that.
Just like you're saying that obviously technology becomes the center to all that, how we move forward together with other countries. And of course, we are also broadcasting this live on our Facebook page, ZBC News Online, and you can actually comment and also ask your questions on that particular platform. Thumbs up to all our 2.5 live viewers who are on the Facebook page who are also asking some questions. This one says, what should NDS do for it to be successful in terms of dealing with corruption? I know the government has done so much. Look, establishing an entire commission, the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, to deal with corruption. But they're asking in terms of what should be done in the NDS2 to also be a complementary effort to what has been done already.
Can I start in with NDS1?
Right.
The issue was good governance. And I think over the years, government has moved on very swiftly. I have been in situations where I've dealt with public sector enterprises, the parastatals. 2017, we had the Public Sector Corporate Governance Act, which ushered in and tried to zero in on corrupt and corruption activities in the public sector. That is since it's beginning to bear some fruits. But also the establishment of the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, which has been working tirelessly. And I know they've got a prevention department, and then they've got the investigations department.
Right.
I have been dealing a lot with and doing a lot of training, going outreach program in terms of prevention.
Which is very important.
Which is very important because we tend to be reactive. We tend to comment on cases or on issues that when corruption is actually occurred. What you want to do is to build a culture in this country, because corruption by its nature will cost you millions, if not billions of dollars. You want to build a culture of people doing the right thing all the time. And this can be supplemented and accompanied, buttressed by a robust digitalization framework. So a digitalized economy is inevitable, because at the end of the day, you can't outsmart a system. Look at what PRAS has done. I think they've done a wonderful job, okay, in terms of, because that's why those were the weaker positions, the weaker areas in the past. So yeah, corruption and corrupt activities, should continue, and to, how do I put it? I put it in terms of preventive measures.
Right.
Yeah, those should be enshrined, and as we move on to NDS2.
Back to the basics. Prevention is better than cure.
That's what it is.
And another comment on our Facebook page coming through from Troy, who says, I don't know why we need to trust a World Bank and IMF. There's the question. You can explain. You made reference a lot to World Bank and IMF, Mr.
Yes, it's a what I call a radical question, because I think the viewer or the listener is got a right to ask that. And is supported by evidence. China, for example, was poorer than Zimbabwe in 1980, and currently they're battling to be number one. They sometimes are number one, ahead of America, and they've not used the World Bank. They've not used the IMF. So it's a yes and no. We need external assistance, like the infrastructure gap that we have of $40 billion requires that we get external assistance. Unfortunately, the IMF and the World Bank have this control which they have, which they are, can I say, crowd pullers? Where they are, financiers come. Where they do not come, financiers also do not come. So we are caught in this situation where I can feel for the viewer. He's got the right to say that, but we need investment. However, our priorities, we don't care where the investment comes from. As the president states, we are an enemy to none, but a friend to all. So wherever it is coming from, as Tafazo mentioned, the investments coming now through are from all over the world. So all sources are welcome.
Let me put it this way. The term that we tend to use is development partners. Okay, We've had in the past 4 or 5 years, the efforts that have been coming from Afrixim, for example. We've had the efforts coming from IMF, World Bank, and other development partners. One of our current challenges that will face us as we move to NDS2 would be both the domestic and external debt overhang, which we need to deal with. The reason why we still need your IMF and look at their staff monitored programs and their visits, and recently I had an occasion where they were saying, yes, we are so happy, we are achieving the 6% growth. We are really there, and Zimbabwe is doing very well. If you look at the so-called developed countries, they are the biggest borrowers from the Bretton Woods institutions. They are the biggest borrowers on World Bank and IMF. And yeah, they've got that ability to borrow. What we now need now is Zimbabwe is to restructure our external debt, renegotiate, re-engage, and restructure and see what we can do, but we still need for infrastructure development. Our own domestic resources are not yet sufficient to meet and to give us to the funding that is ideal for infrastructure development. So to answer that viewer, yes, we still need IMF and World Bank.
So His Excellency is always talking about these mantras: friend to all, enemy to none, open for business, come and invest. And we are seeing the results now. How best can we continue from that?
Yeah, so the results are coming in. And you can't cheat statistics. You can't cheat figures in terms of what is happening. The results are actually coming in. And one of the reasons why we've had IMF staff monitored programs is to check on what is actually coming in. So that which is coming in is a reality. It is there. But what we need, particularly through the relevant ministries, and I'm happy about the remarks made by the minister, is a clear industrialization policy, a clear investment policy which is coming up from ZIDA. And at the end of the day, there are certain things that are anomalous that we must avoid. Let me just give you an example. That is cheaper to fly to Singapore than to fly to Kinshasa.
Why is it like that?
Yeah, you don't, because you have to do connectivity and all other things. Okay, so we have to say, okay, business is about managing cost. Business is about having margins. Investors, they are about getting their dividends, the remittances, and all the other things on a stable currency, which we are actually achieving. If we address those fundamentals, yeah, we are definitely open for business.
As you explained, that I remember during the 44th Head of State and Government Summit held right here in Zimbabwe, His Excellency was also saying that let's improve trade amongst ourselves as regional blocks. SADC, for example, Zimbabwe looking into what Madagascar is producing more, we buy more from Mozambique. How do we get to that level that can also fast track our national vision of becoming an upper middle income economy?
Yeah, before my colleague comes in, issues of regional integration are critical. If you look at SADC, if you look at whatever, they are very critical. The challenge that we have had is historical. We have created, I think, with our neighbors, boundaries where seemingly there's not supposed to be boundaries. We have created demarcations in terms of our relationship with our neighbors. But in reality, today, go to Mozambique, border with Zimbabwe and Mozambique, it's just like one and the same people.
Right.
Go to Vic Falls and Zambia, it's just one and the same people. So until we we need, and I think at the moment the thrust of regional integration by government is actually excellent. So we need to build relations. It makes communication easy. Digitalization framework that we are going for, very easy, should be able to communicate and do it instantly, real time. And this is where we need to move on.
You wanted to comment, Mr. Karonda?
Yeah. We now need, what is critical in support of what he's saying is, and I hope it will be there in the NDS2 document, we now need to begin to develop our AI policy. And with that, and in that, it will actually drive the strength of these regional blocks. Because in fact, you see, the investment required to carry out AI in any country is so huge that one country can't actually afford it.
Right.
So the regional blocks are now required. In this case, let's say we take SADC, and they have an AI policy as SADC, and do the investment as a regional bloc to sustain that. This will now address a lot of issues, including your corruption, which admittedly is currently an issue. It's a real issue. So the regional integration, promotion of regional trade, and then building into the African continental free trade area as a continent in total has got this potential for the country. I mean, for Zimbabwe, if you look at the market that just Africa has, and the potential that is there to ride on each country's competitive advantage, it then creates these regional value chains, which can ultimately develop the economy.
And when it comes to the conversation on image building, how key is it for investors to have confidence when it comes to image building, and what are the key elements that we must focus on when we talk about image building?
Yes, you heard Tafazo say that and it's true, you know that Forbes rated Zimbabwe as the #1 tourist destination in the world. That is a huge statement.
Right.
It might sound like it's tourism, but even investors
Right.
look at that, and that image is what we need to promote. So the more we promote a positive outlook for the country, the more we are believed, the more we are seen as an attraction center. This example which I gave, where 29 European countries were in Zimbabwe, and they're exhibiting at the one hotel in Harare, and talking to industry captains, talking to farmers, talking to projects in horticulture, renewable energy, tourism, saying we want to invest. They were actually saying, let me say that they actually played a game where people came and pitched with their projects. And their projects that were pitched there, I know one project, horticulture project in Manicaland, pitched for 20 million to the EIB, the European Investment Bank, which was there. And it was just amazing. Yes. To say we need this kind of investment. And so it's there. That image needs to be brought out. I think the Fourth Estate, you guys, have a big role in terms of projecting this image, good image of the country everywhere, so that investors can begin to build this confidence. But it starts locally. We've got to be confident ourselves in what we are doing. We've got to be positive ourselves, and then that projects outside.
And be very deliberate.
Yes.
Doc, you'd want to add on in terms of image building, what needs to be done?
Yes, it is. It becomes very critical. One thing that you need to manage is perception. Right. Perception takes you away from reality. And sometimes for people to discover reality, I've noticed you need to use and utilize our trade attaches in various embassies. We need to send the clear message. We need to encourage investments. It's very visible in the tourism sector, very visible in the transport and air industry sector, very visible in other sectors. But perception, sometimes people just have got the wrong perception. Some it is historical, going back to years, they've got that perception. So, for those that are on the ground, they will tell you for sure Zimbabwe is a safe investment destination.
And when you look at maybe what needs to be done in NDS2 to further cement this pillar of image building.
So image building, I believe, should be one of the priority areas. But not only image building, it has to be accompanied by a continuous process of international engagement, re-engagement with our development partners, prospective development partners, prospective investors, all of them, image building, and we will get somewhere. And I've noticed that when you look at international conferences, international exhibitions, look at what happened in Osaka, in Japan, the interest that was shown in terms of Zimbabwe. Look at all the conferences, the trade and investment conferences. They are actually bearing a lot of fruit.
So we should have more of similar platforms like Osaka?
More of those similar platforms, yes. They are necessary.
Very interesting as we continue to look back and so that we can also look forward. You say sometimes it's important to then shape the future by looking at history, but sometimes it's also important to correct the narrative. We had the minister was speaking about who tells our story, who is telling our story out there, and what story is being told, the role that you all play.
Yes.
How key is the diaspora community in promoting investment in Zimbabwe, in portraying the true and accurate image of our country?
One thing that I've noticed, each time His Excellency has got an external visit, it takes time to meet people who are in the diaspora, to discuss, to talk to them about their chances of investing, the prospects that are in Zimbabwe. And if you look at remittances that are coming from the diaspora community, they are injecting a lot of foreign currency. Becomes also very critical. Each and every person going to the diaspora, for me, should be an ambassador to tell the story and go with the narrative that Zimbabwe is a safe destination. And look what is happening. Yeah, some of them also have got groups that they formed. They've got investment syndicates that they have. They are now being involved in the construction sector. I've seen that in the horticulture sector. They are actually financing those. Yeah.
You also want to add in terms
Yes,
of the...
yes.
Yeah.
In fact, the diaspora is a critical constituent for this country. I like numbers. To give you a perspective, so Zimbabwe receives three main forex streams. One is exports of merchandise, goods, and services. The next is foreign help or foreign direct investment. And the next is diaspora inflow. But this is ideally how it should be. But currently, the 11 billion I spoke about, the biggest chunk is merchandise exports. The next, guess who is the next line? It's the diaspora at about 2 billion. You know,
big percentage.
A huge percentage. The only thing that is there is that we're not harnessing it. It's mainly going into consumption. There is a bit of infrastructure like residential, but you see, this is a huge potential for the country. So the diaspora is a critical constituent for this country where, as Doc said, when the president goes out there, listens to what these guys are saying, we need to come up with structures that can harness these flows and even promote it so that more can come, because there's potential for it to be more, and can come through the formal channels and it be harnessed into answering some of our infrastructural needs. We can have a lot of infrastructure built by the diaspora. It's possible. Yes.
There are also conversations, Doc, when it comes to standard of living and how we look at marginalized communities. If the country is developing, what's happening to the poor? What's happening to those in rural areas, those in marginalized communities, the segregated groups? How best can they be catered for by policies like this that will shape the national vision?
Let me take you to the ordinary person in the streets.
Right.
Even the ordinary person in our rural communities. What they require are basic social services. Access to basic education, access to medical facilities, transport facilities, and markets for whatever they produce. Those are the basics that one. Now, when you talk about poverty is that there is deprivation in terms of the basics, human rights, which in terms of our policy framework, the land has been provided. The infrastructure still needs to be improved, but it's being improved. The markets are actually open. Poverty alleviation is associated with inactivity in certain, in basic industries. And the advantage that we've got in Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans are hard workers. Give them the necessary inputs in agriculture. They will produce. Take them to industry, they will work. Take them to the informal sector, they will work. So, why? Because they want to earn a living. We'll then begin to talk about those statistics in terms of measuring poverty, the data poverty line, the total consumption poverty line. That would then be secondary. The first port of call is provision of basic services. When basic services are provided, people become productive. And where there's production, you alleviate poverty.
Interesting.
Yeah, just to add to what he's saying, I like learning from others, because Zimbabwe doesn't have to reinvent the wheel, because others have been there before. And we actually stand at a position where by learning from others, we can actually grow in leaps and bounds. How did China do it? How did China lift people from poverty? They built industries in the rural areas. They built industries in the villages.
Right.
So you go to the village, it produces matamba, and it produces mangoes, it produces whatever other fruit. They produce tomatoes, they produce maize. We must do the value addition right there. Provide the market right there. So our rural industrialization policy really has to come out in Nds2. And I'm happy that the country is already doing it. We see what is happening in Honde Valley, in Manicaland. We see what is happening in Toko. That must spread out so that there is no actually rural-urban migration. We actually need to reverse it to urban-rural migration, where development actually is happening in the villages. And that way we spread this growth to the bottom. That's what I would say.
Right. The conversations will continue right here on ZBC TV as we discuss the launch of the National Development Strategy number 2.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead. Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates,
ZBC TV is driven by the corporation's vision to be the Zimbabwean voice of choice across multimedia platforms globally and be a customer-driven and competitive broadcaster. The national broadcaster is committed to giving you high-quality and innovative programming that projects the Zimbabwean voice, identity, diverse cultural heritage, enduring unity, peace, and shared national vision. To share your views, comments, or register complaints on our programming, contact us on WhatsApp number +263 714 975 328 round the clock. ZBC TV, your voice, your choice. Zim Digital set-top boxes, decoders with all the 7 local television channels and 6 national radio stations are now available for sale. The decoder will give viewers access to ZBC Jive TV, ZBC News, ZBC TV, ZTN Prime, PK TV, Kiona TV, NRTV. No subscription is needed as all the channels are free to view. For $25 or the Zig equivalent, the decoder comes with a cable plus indoor and outdoor antenna. The decoders are available at the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, VAZ, Transmedia, and all the TV broadcasters.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
The President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Lambutso Munanga, was expecting the National Development Strategy number 2 today at the State House. Our team is already at the ground as they wait to get these deliberations going on. But before we actually get back to State House, we still have our guests in the building as we continue to discuss what exactly are we anticipating and expecting in this particular document. How does it shape the country's economy? What you need to know as a farmer, as a business person, as an ordinary Zimbabwean, especially when it comes to your involvement in a national development. Now, Doc, we spoke earlier on about how this document works close together with the budget. When it comes to the tax bracket, what needs to be done? We want.
Some of us were so excited. The launch that's been done together with the national budget. These are two very critical instruments. Before I answer your question in terms of tax, which is a source of income, a source of revenue, domestic revenue source for government, I think one thing that we have ignored in our discussions is the issue of employment, where we are what we call employment. Because people still think the old-fashioned way that employment is just going to work, just to say Monday to Friday, January to June. We are saying gainful occupation. And once you are in a gainful occupation, you then must contribute to the fiscus. And when you contribute to the fiscus, that's the payment of taxes. For those in the informal sector, the presumptive taxes and the other taxes that have been rolled out by Zimra, contributing to the fiscus. But of course, this could be a budget issue. We've had challenges in terms of perception that the more I contribute, the more I'm taxed. Okay, they've got that perception. But I think an obligation for corporates, for individuals, for anybody who is generating income, in terms of our current legislation, be it the Income Tax Act or the Finance Act, is for you to pay taxes. Tax by their nature should never be punitive. Okay, they should have incentives. All right. So we are talking here about Nds2 and investments. Investors always ask, what incentives do I have, in terms of corporate tax? What incentives do I have in terms of rebates on duty? These things need to be put together, and we need to look at this issue holistically. And I think the Nds2 launch and the Nds2 document should answer some of these, because everything cannot be done at the same time. We still have got 4 or 5 years. We still can review our legislation. A number of bills are coming in. We're discussing the Productivity Institute bill, that what encourage productivity amongst individuals, amongst companies, and so that everybody ultimately contributes to tax. I think, let me just say, people should get, I know we are going to have the budget in the afternoon. Right. People always ask, is the tax going to be reduced? Okay, I think what we should do as Zimbabweans, if we are patriotic Zimbabweans,
we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll allow you to really explain in terms of the tax bracket, how it works. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Do you remember back in the day? We would gather at that one house that had a TV in the whole neighborhood to watch our favorite programs on ZBC. Whether it was thrilling wrestling matches, captivating dramas, or the iconic Ezomgito, ZBC TV was an integral part of our upbringing. It wasn't just a channel, it was a shared joy that brought us together. Fast forward to today, and ZBC continues its tradition of delivering top-tier entertainment to your homes. Whether you're tuning in for news, music, educational content, or gripping dramas, we're committed to keep you entertained and informed 24/7. With an expanded channel lineup, we're more than just broadcasters, we're a reflection of Zimbabwe's enduring spirit. Join us on this exciting journey as we revive the golden days and create new ones. Together, we're building a brighter future towards Vision 2030. ZBC TV, your voice, your choice.
Mutare is a beautiful place where everyone knows everyone, so we are all family. It creates a safe space for everyone.
Nestled in the heart of Zimbabwe's Eastern Highlands, Mutare offers breathtaking views. Every morning, the city comes alive and residents take to the hills for jogs, soaking in the serene beauty of the surrounding landscapes.
When you come to Mutare, you will enjoy the beautiful scenery. Everywhere you look, there is a mountain, even from the center of
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Welcome back, and we are still live broadcasting as we anticipate the arrival of His Excellency, and of course for him to preside over the official launching of the National Development Strategy number 2, Nds2, at the State House. Our team is already on the ground. They've already been doing some interviews with stakeholders, captains of industry, CEOs who have come to witness this official launch of the most important document in as far as the journey towards the 2030 is concerned. Nds2 is the final lap for our country to achieve that particular goal. And of course, in the studio, we still have our two guests, Mr. Ugaro and Dr. Zach Mulero. Of course, they have been helping us break down issues and what we need to expect from NDS2. Now, before we went for the break, Doc was explaining on the tax bracket. How best can that be handled? Because people are saying, can the tax take it? We want tax to be reduced.
Yes.
I think they look at that and feel that's development when taxes are reduced. Can you explain how the tax bracket works?
Yeah. Basically, there are two main types of taxes that directly impact on the people. The corporate tax, which is the profit tax on the profit or on organizations, and then the payee, which is the tax paid by employed workers. Mm-hmm. And usually our tax regime is such that it is taxed according to how much you earn. Right. The more you earn, the more you pay tax. So it's given in brackets from $100 onwards. So normally people expect that given the cost of living, the high prices that are in the market, mm-hmm. they need more disposable incomes in their pockets. So they need the taxman or profession to leave a bit more money in their pockets, so that I think the feeling that is there in the market is that the expectation is that the tax brackets can be moved upwards, so that maybe the tax-free band is increased from $100. I don't know to how much. However, there's another subtle component to taxes that is indirect. That is the VAT, which you pay in the goods and services that you receive. There's also the MTT, the intermediated transfer tax, mm-hmm. That is levied on transactions that you do electronically. And it started on a high level, and it has been reduced over the past few years. Currently, it's now 2%. Mm-hmm. And the feeling in the market, especially from business, is that maybe it's time the minister actually removes it to zero. In fact, if I'm to also borrow from the ZANU-PF annual conference, I think one of the resolutions made there was to remove the MTT completely. But I'm trying to wear the minister's shoes, right, and understand the small room that he has to maneuver. I think that the IMTT at the moment is contributing a significant amount of tax revenues, mm-hmm. up to 6%. So if it is removed, it is relief to the market, and it is part of the sharing of this growth that the country has been achieving. However, it creates a big hole on the revenues, mm-hmm. in the government, which puts pressure on the budget deficit. So the minister has very little room to move. He may think about how to tweak it so that certain components or certain sectors of the society are exempted. It's a critical contributing line to government revenues. Otherwise, if he removes it, looking at the extreme, the only other alternative would be to cut the expenditure budget, which we also do not want, because it means cutting on the services. Right. So it's a twin death that the minister is facing. And my recommendation would be maybe to look at how to tweak it to cater for certain specific sectors of the economies, mm-hmm. maybe exempt IMTT from basic transactions, right, so that only those that are not really basic are subject to the 2%. so that he can protect that revenue. And as the GDP grows, as the economy grows, I think it can gradually be removed. As the economy grows and formalization increases, the tax base widens, and then I think he can now streamline it and remove it. At the moment, honestly, I think it is very difficult to remove everything.
Yeah. All right, I think you said it all. As we focus and we look at the launch of NDS2, I think what we need is progressive policy, bearing in mind the new priority areas to increase disposable income, okay? Particularly to individuals. For corporates, normally we are within the sub-Saharan standard of a 25%, right? Plus your AIDS levy, right? For duties, levies, we also have got various bilateral agreements with various of economies and other jurisdictions that we have got. But in terms of perception actually kills what we desire sometimes. There's been that perception that how do we grow an economy which is overtaxed? No, I don't think we are overtaxed. We are not. We should have what we call progressive taxation system, whereby even, yes, there are brackets, we have what we call minimum tax thresholds. We can explore this and then revise this. But the tax policies that should be accompanied by NDS2 should be progressive tax. As he has correctly said, the better we perform and the better the improvement, even the improvement in the performance of the economy, then you begin to lower your taxes to acceptable levels. So yeah, the disposable income, because people are looking at nothing else except disposable income. Organizations and companies are not looking at nothing else except income, except what is it that they get after tax. So that also becomes a critical component, especially as we launch. Also NDS2, I know it's a subject that will be covered today when the budget presentation is made. Yeah.
Very important that we get to have these kind of texts being talked about. But of course, like we said, we still got our team on the ground at the State House who, of course, are speaking to so many guests at the State House. Now, let's get back to Ketley and hear more interviews.
Much gratitude and appreciation once again to the team at the Pocket Tool Studios for bringing the conversation all the way down here to the State House, where we're broadcasting live courtesy of the ZBC News and Current Affairs desk. And now we are joined by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Anxious Masuka, obviously with full perspective that his key ministry has been a very huge player with regards to implementation of the NDS1 getting into the NDS2. And yes, Honorable, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. And Honorable, obviously knowing that one of the key performance indicators of our economy is the agricultural sector, let's take a look at how NDS1 has played a pivotal role with regards to the growth of your particular ministry.
Well, Zimbabwe is an agro-based economy. So when we started with NDS1, we were food insecure. So the first step was to ensure that will become food secure perennially, away from the weather-determined escapades of the past. So we set up a robust, climate-proofed agricultural system. We introduced the Pfumvudza Intwasa. We introduced agroecological tailoring of crops. So we increased maize production to a peak of 2.9 million metric tons in the 2021-2022 season, and last year we had 2.3 million metric tons. We've also seen an increase in traditional grains grown in the drier agroecological zones from 8% of cereals to over 30% of cereals last year. So it means that ordinarily Zimbabwe is now food self-sufficient. But we've gone beyond that. In drought years, with no response mechanism. So we also accelerated irrigation development to climate-proof agriculture at a national level. So we increased irrigation development from about 155,000, 175,000 hectares to over 230,000 now hectares, which has enabled us to do the record wheat production of over 640,000 metric tons. You saw last year when we had a drought, we didn't go begging. We actually injected the wheat-based food security strategy. So we produced sufficient wheat and we gave to rural communities, 7.1 million Zimbabweans, 328,000 metric tons for social welfare. So Zimbabwe, whether it rains or not, we are now able to build this resilience that enables us as a country to cater for our own needs. But we've also done extremely well in terms of milk production. We used to do 75 million liters only in 2018, 2019. This year will be 130 million liters, so almost self-sufficient. You've seen blueberries expand from 2,000 metric tons to over 12,000 metric tons. We have seen in other areas as well very stellar performance in cattle disease reduction as a result of the presidential input scheme. We have seen the rural development program. We were beginning to drill boreholes in villages. Now we have over 4,000 villages that have been covered, but we're slightly behind in terms of the establishment of village business units. But we now have a model for rural industrialization, which will cause rural development and catalyze the attainment of Vision 2030. In the space of so-called industrial cash crops, you have seen what we've done with tobacco, 355 million kilograms, a record for the country, and over 1.2 billion US dollars paid to 135,000 farmers. So close to 9,000 per grower, US per grower. So agriculture is really undergirdled the growth in the economy. Agriculture is projected to grow by 24% this season and contribute 2.2% of the 6.6% growth in GDP this year. So it means that when we had the 1.7% growth last year, agriculture retarded by 18%, we can see that our fortunes are tied to agriculture because we're an agro-based economy. Therefore, our investments ought to be in agriculture in order to sustain the momentum of transformation of the economy.
Transformation of the economy is what you speak of, Dr. Masuka, and of course we give into appreciation as well the fact that the gross domestic product of Zimbabwe cannot be blindsided or blindfolded by the fact that agriculture is a pivotal and key role. But let's talk about the statistics. A very interesting statistic which we do know, which is the 24% which you just mentioned with regards to growth. Having a foresight within what we are looking at or what is ahead of us, which is national development strategy 2, with appreciation of some of the projects such as the dam construction and the irrigation that has taken place, amongst many of the projects that you have also highlighted. How best can you say National Development Strategy 2, with its 10 pillars, will also play a major role with regards to the growth of the economy, perhaps beyond 24% growth?
The thematic area that we are interested in NDS2 is agriculture, food, climate and environment. And in preparation for NDS2, we've now developed the Agriculture, Food Systems and Rural Transformation Strategy 2, 2026 to 2030, which has been approved by Cabinet. It also has 5 impact areas where we are looking at food security and food sovereignty, nutrition improvement, livelihoods improvement, agriculture-led economic development, and of course tenure security through the issuance of title deeds. Once we are able to do that, we'll be able to sustain the momentum into 2030. We're actually building a $15.8 billion industry by 2030 from the current $10.3 billion industry. So agriculture, the momentum gathered this far will be accelerated so that we can continue to support the growth in the other sectors because of the causal and multiplier effects that agriculture has on all aspects of the economy. You know that we've adopted the dam is an economy concept where the dam is not the project, but what the water is intended to do. So we'll be able to do impounding the water, building the dam, we'll be able to do electricity generation, irrigation, drinking water, fisheries and all that. That will cause rural development, and we have 10,600 dams for which we now have said this is an investment case and we invite the private sector to come and participate. You will see that in the 32 value chains or in agriculture, that is in NDS2 and Agriculture and Food Systems Transformation Strategy, we have said we want a value chain approach. So we want from seed to fork. So we want to establish industries on farms. We've also said we want a food systems approach, which means we must have an eye on nutrition. We also said that we want Zimbabwe to become an agro-industrial hub, not just the bread basket of the region. So there is quite a lot in NDS2 and in the agriculture, food systems and rural transformation strategy to look forward to.
Absolutely. And Dr. Masuka, as we close up the conversation, from a policy perspective, how best are we also going to be inclusive with regards to the rural landscape? We do know that you did comment briefly a little bit on some of the projects that are happening, perhaps from a renewable energy point of view, from also a sustainability point of view. But how best are we also going to make sure that outside of projects such as Pfumvudza, outside of some of the schemes that have been happening via some of the presidential projects that have been happening, how best can you say the rural landscape is also going to hear the voice of our minister for the sake of our viewers through some of the projects that you are looking forward to be doing in NDS2?
Well, the president says no one and no place should be left behind. So no household, no village, no chieftainship will be left behind. Through Rural Development 8.0, we know that the household is the planning unit. So we have these 8 interventions that will impact directly the household and uplift them into an upper middle income society. So that's the purpose of the Rural Development 8 agenda, and that is why we want all these dams in rural areas to be brought into full production so that these communities are not left behind. 9.1 million people, 62% of our population resides in rural areas. So we want the rural areas, we want the rural people to become economic participants and not economic spectators.
Economic participants and not economic spectators. You have heard it from Dr. Anxious Masuka, the Honorable Minister in charge of Agriculture. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. And yes, we have managed to also hear the landscape that is occupied with regards to the land in Zimbabwe. That is everything to do with the rural projects as well as the agricultural space, speaking to horticulture, speaking as well to some of the farming activities that have been taking place in Zimbabwe. Of course, we are still with introspection as well as understanding. And of course, we also want to know, we want to hear, as well as want to introspect, as well as want to dig up and have an appreciation of what NDS2 will look like. Obviously, with a recap of NDS1, we do know that many projects are also going to be ongoing. Much of the growth in the nation has also happened, not just through the agricultural space, but also through various other means.
Absolutely, and with that economic growth, the review in projection from that 6%, it was revised. It will be projected to grow by 6.6%. So clearly speaking to the various sectors of the economy, when you spoke to the Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Dr. Anxious Masuka, he did highlight the vast contributions that the agricultural sector has contributed to the economy, and agriculture being a key sector of the economy, and Zimbabwe being agro-based. If we are to look at these economic pillars, or should I say the 14 priority areas, specifically speaking to food security from NDS1, Zimbabwe is food sufficient. We did also see that in terms of even wheat production, Zimbabwe got to a point where we were one of the 2 most food sufficient, highest producers of wheat in the continent, Zimbabwe and Ethiopia. So speaking to food security issues, and when we're speaking to food security, it also we also tie that to poverty alleviation. When you're food secure, you're actually eradicating poverty. And so even with the NDS1, the pillars that speak to economic growth, and stability, we did see a lot of mitigatory measures, climate proofing in our agriculture, and even looking from a domestic point of view with the introduction of Pfumvudza in Twasa. And this also catapulted and mitigated some of those climate-induced effects. Hence, as a result, also providing for that food security at a national level, at a domestic level, at a rural level. And we also saw some of those village business units that are around our 10 provinces of Zimbabwe. And it is those village business units that are also speaking to agriculture being a business. And so we're not just talking about from a commercial basis. We are taking it to the rural areas, the communal areas as well, and even our peri-urban, our urban areas who are also practicing the Pfumvudza in Twasa. And coupled with that, rural development. We do have that rural development, that rural industrialization, that rural development agenda that is being pushed through your sectors of agriculture, among many. And I feel we need to also make our viewers understand that why we're speaking to these achievements, why we're speaking to NDS1, we need the viewers to understand why the launch of NDS2 today, giving that background to say this is how this NDS1 performed through the various sectors of the economy, and looking at where there were gaps, what were the mitigatory measures that were put in place under the different ministries, under the purview of the different ministers, of course. And we even have the ministers of state, so the different ministers of state, which also speaks to the devolution agenda. Devolution is also one of the 14 pillars in our NDS1.
Definitely, and of course, definitely a wealthy contribution there. I do understand you have dissected. Are you a farmer by any chance?
I always speak farming. Rima something.
Rima
Farming
something.
is big business.
Absolutely, and yes, big business happening here at the State House. All the same, we do appreciate once again, Mo, that you also had a conversation with our ministry with regards to tourism, and we did speak to our Honourable Mangaliso Ndlovu, who spoke highly once again to the idea behind some of the projects that have been happening in different parts of Zimbabwe with regards to tourism. We will touch on that, and of course, yes, and of course, we will touch on that and have an appreciation of all that and more through this broadcast that we'll be bringing you here on ZBC TV. We are going to cross over straight to Pockets Hill, where we'll have an appreciation of Ian, who is also taking charge of the conversation with regards to the launch of NDS2.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Thank you so much to Ketli Gwindi and Monica Chanda for those discussions together with the Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Dr. Anxious Masuku, who explained what his ministry was doing in terms of its mandate. Remember when the NDS1 was launched back then, the President actually identified mining and agriculture as the two key economic sectors that were going to see the success of the National Development Strategy. Now, is the Ministry of Agriculture delivered what was expected of it, especially looking at the success of NDS1? I'll start with you, Mr.
Yes, definitely, it has delivered. As usual, we look at the numbers. When NDS2 started, NDS1 started, the target was for the Ministry for the agriculture sector to become an 8 billion sector by the end of NDS1, and they hit that target in the third year of NDS1. Now they're already at 12 billion, as the minister has said. If you just look at tobacco as one crop, at the beginning of NDS1, they were producing 150 million kgs. It has doubled. It has more than doubled. This last year, they sold 350 million kgs, bringing in $1.2 billion export money, US dollars, spread amongst 300,000 farmers. I think that is a tangible result of NDS1 and deliberate policy out of NDS1 towards the agricultural sector. The same thing happens on mining. Their target was to become a 12 billion sector in the economy. They also hit that way before the expiry of NDS1. And now, I would say in terms of those two sectors, the the government delivered. Obviously supported by the relevant infrastructure. I mentioned earlier on that during the NDS2, there's a record of 14 dams, big dams, constructed and completed. So that supports irrigation, that supports the climate proofing that the minister was talking about.
Right.
The number of, I think he mentioned the number of hectareage under irrigation has grown, more than doubled as well, now about over 150,000 hectares under irrigation. That is tremendous growth. What we now need to see in NDS2 is the shift. This production must be maintained or even improved, but shift towards manufacturing, adding value to what is coming out of those primary sectors.
I think it's just read my mind.
Right.
The numbers speak for themselves. If you look at tobacco, 350, that's a double to what was obtaining years ago, and bringing in 1.2 billion dollars in terms of revenue. That is really huge. You also look at maize in terms of self-sufficiency. It becomes critical, because we should not even look at, say, maize only in terms of the tonnage. You know, look at what happened in 2023, the El Nino induced the drought. We had to rechannel resources from the budget to ensure that there was self-sufficiency. So we have achieved self-sufficiency insofar as also maize is concerned. The same thing can happen to wheat production, where again we have exceeded targets, and we have exceeded, and we save foreign currency in terms of that which we're supposed to import. So we are no longer import there. But here is the missing link. The missing link, the minister talks about value chains and downstream activities as a result of agriculture. I believe, for example, if you look at what we are paying to the farmer in terms of the average per kg, I think for last year, or for the just ended tobacco season, ranging anything from $3.87 to about $4.15 per kg. Okay, but the person who does value addition and where it is exported, I believe they earn more. Okay, and that represents that gap. Then it represents a revenue loss for us. As we launch NDS2, there is still sufficient time for us to set up value addition factories which are agro-based, because agriculture is one of the fundamental primary activities which is doing very well. And we need to decentralize that. Okay, decentralize. If you look at the way this economy or the agriculture is being structured, if you look at the Eastern Islands, you're talking about tea, you're talking about all the other. If you look at Masvingo in the Region 5, you're talking about livestock. If you look at Kariba area, you're talking about fish, and Bazoy area, fruits, citrus, and so on and so forth. Those are the areas where you need to set up development nodes now and factories for value addition, if the minister's wish of value chains is to be realized.
And that is just the ministry, one of the two ministries that His Excellency had to single out and say agriculture and mining.
And mining, yes.
And when you spoke earlier on about what we need to do in terms of exporting, you spoke about a point where we need to be exporting the batteries themselves, not raw materials. Mining, how is it playing a key role in this development of NDS1, implementation of NDS1, as it was also a key ministry identified?
It is a key ministry. Okay, just to talk, let me talk about lithium.
Right.
I'm so familiar with it because it's next to my home area. Right. If you look at the production that is coming, it's massive, all right? But we are exporting the bulk of it in raw format.
Which is not the best way to do it.
Yeah. And whilst we have created employment for the local communities, but what you need to do is to set up processing factories and sell lithium batteries. the revenue that you get there will be huge. The same can happen if you go in the Chiredzi area where you've got sugar cane and whatever, and in the plants, the processing plants, we still can make locals participate more, because these were previously done by multinational companies. Okay, so what you want to do is to domesticate and pass on the expertise to our locals, and the capacity and ability to do it is just there. It's there. So it's an opportunity. I am very passionate about value addition of our primary products, and I think that's what NDS2 should address.
Remember the sixth value chain you spoke about earlier on coming into NDS2. Mining, when you look at it, its contribution to what we are calling, of course, successful NDS1. How key was it for you?
Sorry, how?
Key.
How
key
key?
was
Yes,
the
yes.
sector?
It was. In fact, if you look at the growth in the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP, there's an element of manufacturing now accounted for in there, because the government has deliberately adopted a policy of value addition for mining licenses. So there is in the mining sector currently a policy where to export certain quantity of raw minerals, you need to be showing progress of setting up a manufacturing plant. And some of the manufacturing is already being done. In lithium, there are some areas where now they are processing it at least to stage 1, to its liquid form. They haven't gone all the way. So it's a policy which already is beginning to actually bring results. So we can see this growth that is happening is actually following the trend that we anticipate.
Interesting. And earlier on we spoke about the tax bracket, and coming back to that, remember you explained, Doc, in terms of the employees, the ones that are being taxed. Yet they are complaining they also want a bit more money everyone wants. At the same time, the informal sector evading tax. Yet they are maximizing on their profits, not contributing to the revenue. How do you balance that? How do you motivate Zimbabweans to formalize and also contribute, understand the importance of contributing towards national revenue collection?
Most of these things are rooted in culture. Culture can be modified and changed over time. In the formal sector, you have no choice because it's knocked off at payroll point. All right? Or you have payroll systems, they knock off all your tax at payroll point, and it's done automatically. For Ian, who has got some extra business, that some hustling that he's doing, and he's got some extra money, we are all pocketing it. And the funny thing about our economy, there's a lot of money circulating in the informal sector, which monetary authorities probably cannot correctly, especially the US dollar component, correctly account for it, because we don't have a robust database. But I think that's for RBZ to really look into. But specifically to come to your question is then, how then do you encourage this informal sector, which he wants to call SMEs, all right? We have no choice. I think education first, carrying out a robust program of making sure that they are formalized, 2, registering them, locating them to areas where you are able to trace them. Let me give you an example. If you go into most major city centers today, we have what used to be called big buildings. They have now been subdivided into small cubicles. I don't know what you call them. And you have in this somebody doing this business. And all that represents economic activity. The big shops are no longer there. What you have there are the small shops. Now, you then say, oh, look, what licenses do you require with the ease of doing business? You need a municipal license, a health license, and blah, blah license. But you then say to them, if you contribute and you are registered through financial institutions, you have access to funding, you have access to capital. So what we need is a robust educational programs. Yes, they can register on terms. The term system is totally amenable in terms of them registering, but they have to have that will They have to be given that education, that there are benefits associated with you being formalized. Then they contribute to tax. Because the result is if they contribute to tax, then we can then go to those who are to PAYE and then say, no, because we are now having another source of revenue source, let's then widen our tax brackets or reduce the PAYE.
So yeah, you paint a very lucrative picture of how it can be done and how the informal sector can also be at least motivated for us to be able to see them contributing towards the collection of revenue at that level. Now, when you talk of the SMEs that you made reference to, people are now beginning to construct buildings everywhere. I mean, you see tuck shops, the small businesses, they kept in here and there. And sometimes you hear the government saying we need to have the point of sale machines working for us to be able to also utilize our local currency. And it's not really being followed, especially in that informal sector, the promotion of our local currency. Because the ultimate goal again in 2030 is to have de-dollarized completely using our local currency. How do this informal sector also use our local currency?
Yeah. Before he takes it, let me just make some remarks on that. Okay. If you go on the national payment system today, I'm not privy to the statistics as I speak now, but I would say probably about 80% of transactions are in US dollars. 20% could be in ZiG. A de-dollarization program, as we move towards 2030, is to persuade us to embrace our local currency. There's nowhere in the world there's any economy grown without its own local currency. And I'm happy that government has endorsed that principle. And we hope through NDS2 and through efforts by monetary authorities, a de-dollarization program will take place. And ultimately we'll be able to account for the levels of money that we've got in our markets. Right now, in the informal sectors, they don't have those fiscalized devices as required by the VAT Act. They are not registered on terms, and therefore you have hard cash in US dollar circulating, and there's no contribution to the fiscus. So a robust program, and I think we've been saying this since the beginning of this program, a robust program of formalizing everybody who is in the informal sector will make NDS2 succeed.
Right. You wanted to respond to this, Doc?
Yes. There are various, I'm going back to the original question that you had, how we can bring in the informal sector or the SMEs, how we can regularize the SMEs. We need to go back and try to understand what created, what promoted informalization. There are many factors, but the key factors were deindustrialization. People lost jobs. And what caused deindustrialization is dollarization. Because once dollarization came in, it became cheaper to import than to manufacture. So you find that even manufacturers were bringing in semi-finished goods and just package them and sell. It was profitable. So unemployment cost, it contributed to informalization. Now, fast forward to current, we're in a situation where we are dual currency or multi-currency. It's always a problem to have multi-currency operating in any economic entity, because always the stronger currency always drives the weaker currency out. So that coupled with there's been a disintermediation that has happened in this economy where people have shifted from banking into home banking or pillowcase.
The culture of,
yes. So that shift, why? Because banking has been viewed, or trust has been lost in banking, because people lost their wealth when they lost their savings because of what happened at dollarization. And then it repeated when we tried to de-dollarize, and it repeated again 3 times. So people with money in banks do not trust. But those that trust are charged to the extent that Zimbabwe is the only country in the world where when you put money in the bank, it reduces instead of it increasing. So these are all factors that when put together have created this scenario. So I think that the role of the monetary authorities in NDS2 going forward has to be very pronounced in terms of regenerating trust in the banks, regenerating a savings culture such that people can begin to say, I am saving for tomorrow. And then those savings are kept in the bank so that the banks can intermediate and promote investment. But how do we do that? Do we do it with the US dollar or we do it with our local currency? This is where the authorities are driving the de-dollarization roadmap, because there's no way we can achieve what we want to do still using the dollar. So what is critical at this stage, we're at a turning point where I think the social dialogue has to be enhanced, where everybody has to be on the bus, agreed, and the steps that we are going, or the milestones that we are going to be following as we lead into 2030 or towards a monocurrency are all agreed and shared across all interested stakeholders. I know that there's a lot of discussions right now at the social dialogue platform, which is the tripartite negotiating forum, where everyone is involved. And the fear there is the pronunciation that monocurrency by 2030 creates fear in investors. They say, so what is going to happen on 2030 if I've got so much dollars in my account in the bank? Or if I've got this investment running? And the banks are saying, if somebody comes today with a good project that needs money for 10 years, if I give them the money for 10 years, what will happen at 5 years? So the banks are adopting a conservative approach to say we can't lend that long. We can only lend short term. So this talk has to be very carefully managed so that it is clarified as to what will really, really happen. Maybe it will be gradually leading to what we all want, which is monocurrency, local currency. And the doc mentioned the transactions. I would just update that the latest is that ZiG is now 40% of transactions, so dollar transactions are declining. So that's good. It's moving.
The direction that we want.
That's the direction that we want. But it is market driven. It's not legislated.
It's not scientific.
It's the market doing it by itself. So that needs to be encouraged. That needs to be, whatever is happening to ensure that it happens needs to be harnessed and promoted. And what's leading to that is the current stability of the ZiG.
I'll let you come back and explain the stability of the ZiG and how that can usher the country into the status of being an upper middle income economy by 2030. We are taking a short break. We will be right back.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Mutare is a beautiful place where everyone knows everyone, so we are all family. It creates a safe space for everyone.
Nestled in the heart of Zimbabwe's eastern highlands, Mutare offers breathtaking views. Every morning, the city comes alive and residents take to the hills for jogs, soaking in the serene beauty of the surrounding landscapes.
When you come to Mutare, you will enjoy the beautiful scenery. Everywhere you look, there is a mountain. Even from the center of the CBD, you can still see mountains behind me. The water is clean, the air is always fresh. You'll enjoy Mutare.
Step into Mutare Museum, a treasure hub preserving the region's rich cultural heritage. From rare plant species to fascinating animal displays. This museum tells the story of Manicaland's past while inspiring future generations. Mutare serves as Zimbabwe's gateway to Beira and the Indian Ocean. This vital connection fosters trade, cultural exchange, and a seamless link between two nations.
Mauya kaMutare kumakomoyo tinokugamuchirai masvika kuno. Muri kungoona kuti Mutare is evergreen. Ndo kune hudobi-dobi hwese hwezvidyarwa zvamuri kuona zvakazara apa. Kuno kunorimwa dikani. Ende zvanditi munhu aziya zvana wasu kana kuti takaende kusikuru. Kana usizi kufunda zviya unondozika, asi kwaMutare ndo kune zvikoro zvese. Ngatitaure ngeTsambe, kana usina kuenda kwaTsambe hauzi kufundaba. So mwazvita ngekuuya kuno. See you next time.
Mutare, a city where nature, culture, and community come together. Discover its charm, explore its history, and experience its unique place in Zimbabwe's story.
Don't I?
Mutarazi Falls,
In the heart of Zimbabwe's eastern highlands lies a natural wonder that defies imagination. At 762 meters, it is the tallest waterfall in Zimbabwe and the second highest in Africa. Mutarazi Falls is more than just a waterfall. The skywalk bridges, stretching 70 and 90 meters across the gorge, offer an unparalleled view of this majestic cascade. Suspended high above, visitors can feel the thrill of standing on the edge of nature's masterpiece. Set within Nyanga National Park, this destination offers more than just thrills. It's a place to connect with nature, surrounded by pristine forests and stunning views of Honde Valley and beyond. Whether you seek serenity or excitement, Mutarazi Falls promises an unforgettable journey into Zimbabwe's untamed beauty, a place where nature and adventure collide. For adrenaline seekers, the Mutarazi zipline is an experience like no other. Spanning 400 meters, it is Africa's longest zipline. It's a flight through beauty and adventure.
Do you remember back in the day We would gather at that one house that had a TV in the whole neighborhood to watch our favorite programs on ZBC. Whether it was thrilling wrestling matches, captivating dramas, or the iconic Ezomkito, ZBC TV was an integral part of our upbringing. It wasn't just a channel, it was a shared joy that brought us together. Fast forward to today, and ZBC continues its tradition of delivering top-tier entertainment to your homes. Whether you're tuning in for news, music, educational content, or gripping dramas, we're committed
to Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe.
Thank you for staying with us right here on ZBC TV as we give you the live proceedings. Now, let's cross over to the State House and follow proceedings.
Thank you. We may take our seats. Your Excellency, this afternoon, allow me to open in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, you have said in your word, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that will make it come to pass. But you also say in your word, commit your ways and your plans unto the Lord, and he will bring it to pass. Today, as we come to launch the National Development Strategy 2, we ask that it be committed into your hands, and that it is you that will make this 5-year strategic document to be a living document that will come to pass. Bless His Excellency the President and all the people that he leads, and that they may prosper in everything that they do. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Your Excellency, the President, Comrade Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, the Honorable Vice President, Colonel retired KCD Mohadi in absentia, the Honorable Vice President, retired Dr. CGDN Chiwenga, Minister of State for the Metropolitan Province of Harare, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers here present, United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Your Excellency Dr. Kalon, and all the members of the UN family here present, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, senior government officials present, members of the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. Your Excellency, at this moment I will ask the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution for Harare Metropolitan Province, Honorable C.Z. Tawengwa, to come and give his welcome remarks. Honorable Tawengwa, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, the Honorable Vice President, retired Dr. Chiwenga, in absentia, the Honorable Vice President, KCD Mohadi, all protocols observed. Your Excellency, I take this opportunity to welcome all our esteemed guests to this event whereby we are witnessing the launch of the NDS2 program. Because of time, Your Excellency, I will stop here and hope that we do have a blessed and well accepted launch of our NDS2 program. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of State. At this moment, Your Excellency, allow me to call to the podium the Honorable Professor M. Ngube, Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, to come forward to the podium, give his remarks, and introduce the guests of honor for this launch. Honorable Minister.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, and Commander-in-Chief of Zimbabwe Defense Forces. The Honorable Vice President, retired General Dr. C.G.D.N. Chiwenga, the Honorable Vice President, retired Dr. K.C.D. Mohadi, in absentia, all ministers here present, my colleague ministers, the Res Rep of Edward Kellon, UNDP, senior government officials, the Chief Secretary, Dr. Martin Rushwaya, and the Deputy Chief Secretaries, I welcome you all. Your Excellency, I'll be brief. I rise on this momentous occasion to invite you, Your Excellency, to officially launch the National Development Strategy 2, which is a blueprint that will guide the socio-economic development of the country for the years 2026 to 2030. Under your vision and leadership, Your Excellency, Zimbabwe's socio-economic development has realized palpable and tangible achievements across all sectors of the economy, and this has laid a firm foundation for sustained growth and development. The NDS1 mid-term review and the terminal evaluation confirm that we've made significant progress across all thematic areas, demonstrating resilience, improved governance, and renewed momentum towards the attainment of Vision 2030. So, Your Excellency, the NDS1 has laid a firm foundation for NDS2. Let me make one more point before I invite Your Excellency to give your keynote. That the NDS2, Your Excellency, is a result of an extensive consultation. No wonder why it's 600 pages long. It's very heavy indeed. We consulted all stakeholders within government, the private sector, civil society, academia, faith-based organizations, the churches, in formulating this strategy. Their input ensured that the NDS2 reflects our collective aspirations and national priorities. Finally, let me thank the Chief Secretary, Dr. Martin Rushwaya, for having led the team ably in these consultations and in formulating the document, assisted by Dr. Willard Manungo, who is away today. They all did an excellent job, Your Excellency, working with the Treasury staff to produce the final document, the NDS2 document. Your Excellency, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite you, Your Excellency, to address the nation and officially launch the National Development Strategy 2. I thank you.
And pray, be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to officiate this occasion which marks the presentation and the launch of the National Development Strategy number 2. The development blueprint will guide the implementation of our programs and projects for the period 2026 to 2030. It further signifies our resolve and determination to accelerate our transition towards a prosperous and empowered upper middle income society as enunciated in Vision 2030. Let me at the outset congratulate all our stakeholders, ministries, departments, and agencies for the unity of purpose and focus you demonstrated during the conceptualization and subsequent formulation of this strategy. In doing so, it is pleasing that you executed the task guided by the principle of inclusivity and our mantra of leaving no one and no place behind. The NDS2 is thus an outcome of broad-based national consultations. I say to you, well done, Makorokoto Amhlope. It encapsulates the voices, the hopes, and aspirations of our people from across the country. The various perspectives of the private sector, faith-based organizations, development partners, and the diaspora were also taken into account. It is a document that embodies unity, self-reliance, and shared responsibility in line with our national development philosophy, Nyika, Inovakwa, Igotongwa, Igonamatirwa, Nevenevayo. The National Development Strategy 2 seeks to consolidate the gains achieved to date. In keeping with my administration's focus on professionalism and high work ethic, the implementation of this strategy will be anchored on stakeholder participation, value for money, and a timely delivery of impactful results. All public institutions are challenged, therefore, to develop and nurture service delivery standards that suit our unique local realities, while also dovetailing with global best practices. Through this commitment, my government assures citizens of timely, people-centered, and a quality service delivery, befitting an empowered and a prosperous upper middle-income society. In line with our Zimbabwe's Open for Business drive, the NDS2 will continue to advance reforms aimed at enhancing competitiveness and reducing the cost as well as the complexity of doing business. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, the overarching objectives of the National Development Strategy 2 include: 1, sustaining a stable and a predictable macroeconomic environment that promotes investment, innovation, productivity, and resilience, while strengthening, diversifying, and deepening the financial sector to enhance domestic resource mobilization and broaden financial inclusion. 2, transform the economy from a primary commodity-based to a diversified, broad-based, modern upper middle-income country through accelerating value addition and beneficiation. 3, develop a strong, modern, and resilient infrastructure backbone across all sectors of the economy that supports productivity and sustainable socio-economic development. 4, increase agricultural productivity to achieve food and nutrition security, as well as promote sustainable agro-processing value chains, strengthen climate resilience and environmental sustainability. 5, promote science, technology, innovation, and human capital development for the realization of a knowledge-driven and digitally enabled economy. 6, strengthen devolution and decentralization to promote equitable and inclusive national development. 7, accelerate job creation, youth development, and entrepreneurship, as well as promoting the growth of the sport, creative, and cultural industries. 8, enhance social development, universal access to quality health, education, and other social services. 9, enhance brand Zimbabwe, strengthen international relations and regional integration, attract foreign direct investment, promote tourism, and advance diplomatic and trade development. 10, strengthen governance and security institutions to consolidate the prevailing unity, the peace and social cohesion we enjoy in the country. To achieve these broad objectives, we have set for ourselves 10 national priorities whose development impact transcends all sectors of the economy. Further, our priorities are aligned to regional, continental, and global development frameworks. These encompass the SADC Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan, the African Union Agenda 2063, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, to ensure that our communities benefit from our natural resources and endowments, the strategy will prioritize industrialization, modernization, value addition, and beneficiation, predominantly of agriculture and mineral commodities. The importance of infrastructure, orderly and planned human resettlements in our pursuit of Vision 2030 cannot be overemphasized. The strategy will equally focus on the implementation of comprehensive interventions in energy, in transport, ICT, water and sanitation, as well as housing development. These are key enablers for inclusive economic growth and structural transformation. Riding on the unprecedented gains realized in agriculture, particularly in maize, wheat, and tobacco, the Nds2 will see us ring-fence our national food and nutrition security. We foresee this to be achieved through increased productivity, modern storage infrastructure, and enhanced climate resilience. the need to climate-proof our agriculture, establish sustainable irrigation, along with integrated land and water management, will result in increased investments in these areas. With regards to science, technology, digitalization, innovation, and human capital development, Nds2 has been designed to enhance the quality of education through science, vocational education training, and lifelong learning. The intricate nexus between academia, innovation, and industry is said to be consolidated. Job creation, entrepreneurship, youth and women empowerment, as well as the growth of the sport, creative and cultural industries remain of critical importance under my administration. Support for content creation resonates with nation building, development and value addition to aid industrialization, as well as entrepreneurship programs for youth and women will be enhanced. Additionally, government will continue to roll out measures to formalize small to medium enterprises, promote sport and creative industries, as well as protect intellectual property. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, our ZANU-PF-led government is a listening and a people-centered administration. I'm very sincere about this one. Under my leadership, therefore, equitable regional development and inclusivity will be achieved across provinces through the accelerated implementation of the devolution and decentralization agenda. Under the National Development Strategy number 2, broader social development and the mainstreaming of cross-cutting development issues such as gender, disability, and overall social protection remain key. Strategic interventions, inclusive of modernization of our country's healthcare infrastructure, availability of medicines, expansion of health insurance cover, and implementing gender-responsive policies shall be rolled out at a faster pace. Meanwhile, unity, peace, security, and the integrity of our national institutions remain the required solid foundation upon which we must successfully implement the NDS number 2. Hence, the strategy must entrench and deepen transparency, accountability. Our fight against corruption across all sectors will continue unabated. Zimbabwe will also continue to uphold international commitments on human rights, on peace and security, while fostering dialogue, national unity, and rule of law. With regards to the diplomatic and international relations front, we remain guided by our enduring philosophy that Zimbabwe is a friend to all and an enemy to none unless you choose. The strategy must give prominence to the Brand Zimbabwe initiative while continuing with the engagement and re-engagement policy which we pursue. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, the success of any plan or strategy lies largely in its comprehensive rollout and the timeless execution. To this end, the implementation of the National Development Strategy number 2 will be anchored on robust and well-coordinated supportive structures that promote communication and dissemination, coherence, accountability, and inclusivity for the delivery of our national priorities and objectives. In order to realize high-impact results, strengthen performance management and accountability, the NDS2 will be monitored and evaluated through a digitally enabled integrated results-based management framework. This will be augmented by dedicated data units in ministries, departments, and agencies to enhance validation and reporting. I call upon all the people of our motherland, Zimbabwe, my brothers and sisters, of course inclusive of development partners, to put shoulder on the wheel and rally behind this transformational national development strategy, together in unity. With focus and unwavering determination, let us play our respective parts to accelerate progress and surpass the development aspirations and expectations as envisioned in this document. Our cherished national vision is becoming a reality, leveraging our domestic resource endowments, the hard-working nature of our people, the ingenuity of our youths, along with the invaluable role of our citizens in the diaspora. Nothing in this plan is impossible. Let us all continue to uphold the enduring principles of service, patriotism, loyalty, hard, honest work, production and productivity for the prosperity, the development, and the modernization of our only beloved motherland, Zimbabwe. Let us move forward hand in hand, building, modernizing, and industrializing our country. Ibwe, pamsoro perimwe bwe. Ngatirambe tichivaka nyika yedu isive nevayo. Nyika inovakwa, igotongwa, igonamatikwa neve nevayo. Ukabona peimwe nyika bona matira yokwenyu yokwavaka namatira rini. With these remarks, it is now my honor and privilege to declare the National Development Strategy number 2 officially launched, which has all across every sector of the economy and society great success as we embark on the journey ahead. A brighter and a more prosperous future is certain as we remain united as a people. God bless you all. God bless Zimbabwe. I thank you.
What do you want me to do? I'm directed by this professor that I should cut this ribbon, and they're cutting. And he says I must raise the eye, and I've obliged. Thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for those words of wisdom and direction. And at this moment, to give us remarks in closing, I will invite the resident coordinator of the United Nations, His Excellency Ambassador Callon, to come forward and give his remarks.
His Excellency, Comrade Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Honorable Vice President, Retired General Dr. CDGN Chiwingwa, Honorable Vice President, Retired Colonel Dr. KDC Mohadi in absentia, Honorable Professor Mutoli Nkobe, Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion, the Honorable Ministers for the Metropolitan Province, Comrade C. Tawengwa, Honorable Ministers that are present here with us, Dr. Martin Rishaya, Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Reverend Paul B. Damasani, Deputy Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, and today serving as Director of Ceremony, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is a profound honor and privilege to stand before you today on behalf of the United Nations to deliver this vote of thanks at the launch of the Zimbabwe's National Development Strategy 2 for the period 2026 to 2030. This is truly a momentous occasion, marking a new chapter in Zimbabwe's journey towards sustainable development and prosperity. First and foremost, I wish to extend our deepest gratitude to the government of Zimbabwe for its exemplary and open engagement through the design of this pivotal National Development Strategy 2. The comprehensive and inclusive approach adopted has been truly commendable. We have witnessed firsthand the extensive consultations, not just in broad strokes, but also meticulously by priority areas. The Kadoma in-person meetings and subsequent engagements, where written and verbal inputs were provided to each priority area, stand as a testament to this commitment. This inclusive spirit brought together a diverse array of voices, development partners, both bilateral and multilateral, captains of industry, civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, youth representatives, traditional and religious leaders, and critically, persons with disability. This whole of government and society approach, as articulated in NDS2, has ensured that this blueprint is truly national reflecting the aspiration and contributions of all Zimbabweans. Your Excellency, the United Nations firmly believes that this national development strategy is a robust national blueprint that we are proud to align with. It forms the bedrock of our current Zimbabwe UN cooperation framework, which ends in 2026, and indeed the next Zimbabwe UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework that we are seized with to develop for the period 2027 to 2030. Over the past 3 years, we have consistently disbursed an average of $500 million annually, amounting to a remarkable $1.5 billion by early 2025 in support of NDS-1. This investment is aimed at supporting various development programs and projects that align with Zimbabwe's commitment to sustainable development goals and its vision of becoming an upper middle income society. Together, we are not just envisioning a brighter future, we are actively laying the groundwork to achieve it. As we embark on this ambitious journey, we are reminded that what can be measured gets implemented and tracked. To ensure the effective realization of NDS2 priorities, we should put together a comprehensive multi-year financing framework for the implementation cycle of NDS2. While the national budget will undoubtedly be central, it is imperative that other diverse sources of financing are aligned to support the implementation of these critical priorities. In this regard, resolving the ongoing discussion on debt and arrears is paramount, as it will unlock vital new financing avenues for NDS2 implementation. Exploring the option of thematic bonds, climate financing, as well as domestic, regional, and global financing for development resources should be explored. The UN system and its agency are at your disposal for support in this regard. Furthermore, for NDS2 to truly resonate and galvanize collective action, there is a clear need for a robust media, communication, and publicity strategy, complete with a costed action plan to mobilize communities through showcasing progress and commitment at every stage. This will ensure widespread understanding, ownership, and participation from all stakeholders, particularly people of Zimbabwe across the board. We must also underscore the imperative to enhance development coordination mechanism. This needs to happen not just at the national level, but critically at the thematic and sectoral levels, where the operationalization of NDS2 priorities will take place, supported by regular and predictable scheduling to marshal technical and financial commitment of all stakeholders and development partners in a predictable manner. In line with this, strengthening partnerships through regularizing and revamping the development partners' policy dialogue will be instrumental in facilitating the effective and efficient implementation of NDS2. Your Excellency, the remarkable achievement would not have been possible without exceptional leadership. The United Nations system in Zimbabwe congratulates and commends His Excellency the President, Dr. Edi Mnangagwa, for his visionary guidance and leadership. Our heartfelt appreciation also goes to the Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Dr. Martin Rushaya, and the entire OPC team for their tireless efforts. The Minister of Finance, Economic Development, and Investment Promotion, Honorable Prof. N. Nkube, and his dedicated team, as well as the permanent secretaries and the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor and his team, deserve special recognition for ably co-chairing the extensive consultation along the 10 priority areas of NDS2 leading to this historic launch today. Finally, I wish to acknowledge the valuable input from all UN agencies, including the financial support provided towards the development of NDS2. Our gratitude also extends to the Zimbabwe Development Partners Forum, which convenes the UN and bilateral OECD DAC members for their consistent engagement and invaluable financial and technical contribution throughout the process. As we celebrate this significant milestone, the United Nations reaffirms its commitment to stand shoulder to shoulder with the government and people of Zimbabwe. Together, We can and will achieve the ambitious goals set forth in the National Development Strategy 2, paving the way for a truly prosperous and empowered Zimbabwe, achieving its 2030 vision of becoming an upper middle income society, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, the African Union Agenda 2063, and the SADC Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those words, Ambassador Cullen. Your Excellency, we come to the close of this short ceremony to launch a 5-year strategy which God will help. May the Almighty God bless you and cause His face to shine upon you as you proceed to the other engagements of this day. Here ends our meeting today.
Consolidating the gains and achievements of NDS1 and His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, officially launching the National Development Strategy 2, a transformative and inclusive economic blueprint that is going to be pushing and driving economic growth and indeed pushing Zimbabwe towards that upper middle income economy by 2030. And under the leadership of His Excellency speaking to that Vision 2030, which of course with the mantra leaving no one and no place behind, and speaking to how this NDS2 with widespread broad-based stakeholder engagement and consultations from your diaspora to your church-based groups and even looking to the private sector who were also part of those consultations for this very agenda where Zimbabwe is pushing towards that upper middle income economy. And with His Excellency also speaking to the sustainment of microeconomic environment, strengthening as well as diversifying the financial sector among many other key issues, and indeed transforming from a primary base to accelerated value addition agro-based economy, and even pushing for those sectors of the economy. But indeed there will be that monitoring and evaluation of the NDS2 through that innovative system which will be saying how those sectors of the economy and of course the relevant authorities will be performing. But this has been your production, the Current Affairs team with the crew behind the scenes as we were bringing it from State House, but with Ian Vambe in our studio at Pockets Hill. He will be wrapping it up for us, and this has been the launch of NDS2.
World meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
The National Development Strategy number 2 officially launched by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, of course, who came through, gave his presentation, and also we saw him officially launching NDS2. Gentlemen, the document we have been talking about is now officially launched. Your key takeaways as we round off the program. I'll start with you, Dr.
Yes, indeed, as expected, the key areas and the new 10 national priority areas that we have discussed, which some of them might take over, they roll over from NDS1, and the emphasis that His Excellency has made in terms of commitment. I was particularly impressed by that, including the performance and evaluation of targets to be given, particularly by those who are going to actually roll on, the program of implementation. And he has actually indicated the need for continuity, resilience in terms of implementation. Now, with the parameters and all the details that we have discussed today, Vision 20 is getting closer. Vision 2030 is now a reality. I do see it a reality. A position, again, which has been reinforced from the United Nations representative in terms of how happy they are with the program and the implementation matrix that we are having. So yeah, it's been a good launch, and we all hope now to go through the voluminous document.
And to you, Mr. Gario, take away from the presentation.
Well, first of all, obviously, to congratulate the nation and His Excellency for launching the NDS2, and obviously also to congratulate the nation for the all the successes of NDS1 as we go into NDS2. But as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Right.
Yes, so now we go into implementation. I think the President mentioned it. I think what is more important now is the rolling out, the actual actions. But in summary, I think the discussions we had this morning are by and large all probably captured. If you look at the summary of the 10 objectives as the President announced them, looking at firstly the macroeconomic stability, secondly financial deepening. I think we spoke about it at length when we talked about disintermediation. The infrastructure is a third objective, and then increasing in the agriculture and mining productivity.
Right.
I think the word productivity is the key word there. So it's no longer just about producing, but it's about being efficient. He spoke about devolution. We spoke about it in our discussions when we were saying let's industrialize the rural areas. Then job creation. We spoke about jobs. We spoke about creation of decent work for the people. Then social development, education and health. I think he went at length to describe that. And then the brand Zimbabwe. I think we spoke about it. Attraction to become the image building. Yes, the image of the nation. And lastly, the governance and security. Corruption, we spoke about this. So I think by and large, it looks like we are on the ball. But like I said at the beginning, proof of the pudding is in the eating. I think the challenge is on all of us to go now and implement and roll out this.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Now, like you said, it was about this launch of the NDS2 rather, budget is up next.
Yes.
What are we expecting just as we round off?
Yeah, so as I've indicated, we have two critical documents which will drive the economy. The launch of NDS2 now is now the launch of the budget, which should read and probably go into the 10 national priority areas, and also the minister will now do the allocations in terms of what is necessary for this economy to tick for the next in 2026, given the areas that we have mentioned, the growth trajectory that we have got of 6%, this resilience and the sustainability of that growth which is needed if all the objectives of NDS2, the new 10 priority areas are to be realized. But also, I think this afternoon expectations are very high on tax concessions. All right, that's very high. There are very high expectations there. What the minister are going to do about that, and also incentives for productive sectors. And the issue keeps on coming: productivity.
Gentlemen, allow me to say thank you so much for being with us throughout this entire broadcast. And of course, we truly appreciate and value your time and your views on how this economy will be run, especially looking at NDS2. We'll be bringing you again for us to be able to discuss how it's being implemented. And eventually in 2030, hopefully we'll be smiling and say, here we are, 2030. Otherwise, thank you so much for being right here.
Thank you, Ian.
Right, we were joined by Dr. Zach Murerwa together with Mr. Mishek Ungaro from the Zimbabwe Economic Society for us to be able to really unpack the National Development Strategy 2 that we were discussing, and it has been officially launched at the State House by the President, Dr. Emerson Adambozo Mnangagwa. And of course, we spoke about the national budget, the 2026 national budget being presented this afternoon at the new Parliament building. We'll be getting shortly to that, and of course with some more guests who will also help us unpack and discuss the expectations of the budget. But the live production continues right here on ZBC TV. Stay with us. We'll be back with the 2026 National Budget presentation.
Current Affairs, your window into Zimbabwe, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Join us for unscripted live events, state functions, parliamentary debates, independence, heroes, and defense forces celebrations, and many more. We are committed to telling the unbiased Zimbabwean story, giving you unfettered access to the latest news and developments shaping our nation. From the streets of Harare to the world stage, Current Affairs brings you the stories that matter most to Zimbabweans. Don't miss out on our in-depth coverage of local and international issues, expert analysis, and thought-provoking discussions. ZBC Current Affairs, where the world meets Zimbabwe. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay ahead.
Welcome to Zimbabwe, a land of stunning landscapes, rich culture, and most importantly, a people whose smiles light up the darkest corners of the world. Here in the heart of Southern Africa, every smile holds a story, and every interaction is an invitation to connect. From the majestic Victoria Falls to the ancient ruins of Great Zimbabwe, the beauty of this country is matched as people. Zimbabweans take great pride in their hospitality, often greeting visitors with wide smiles and open hearts. Zimbabwe is a land rich in culture and traditions. Festivals celebrating music, dance, and community bring people together, and smiles are the universal language spoken by all. In every celebration, you'll find joy not just in the event itself, but in the people who share it with you. It's about the relationships we build, the stories we share, and the laughter that echoes in the hills. Each smile breaks down barriers and builds bridges of friendship. From the breathtaking beauty of Hwange National Park to the serene shores of Lake Kariba, nature and its creatures bring smiles to faces young and old. Majestic animals in their natural habitat creates unforgettable memories and lasting connections. As your journey comes to an end, it's the smiles that you carry with you that will remain etched in your heart. Each encounter, each laugh is a reminder of the kindness and hospitality that makes Zimbabwe a truly special destination. Whether exploring the bustling streets or the tranquil countryside, remember that every smile you encounter is an invitation to understand Zimbabwe more deeply. So come and experience the smiles of Zimbabwe, where each one is a connection waiting to be made. With all this beauty and splendor, one might believe that Zimbabwe is just all about natural scenes, beauty and smiles. Zimbabwe is a business hub where people all over the world gather to do business, to meet and greet. Conferences in Zimbabwe are full of moments where a smile can make a big difference. Whether you're meeting someone for the first time, asking a question during a session, or just passing by someone in the hallway, a smile can convey so much. It's a universal sign of friendliness and openness. It says, I'm approachable, and I'm here to engage with you. And remember that smile you share with nature? It's more than just a physical gesture. It's a reflection of how we feel when we're in tune with the natural and business world. calm, content, and connected. Smiling releases